That's the wrong button. Hello. Wait, yes, I am unmuted. Oh my gosh, I thought I didn't do it. Banana slices. I like that idea too. They kind of look like cheese wheels, like the mini cheeses, Baby Bells. Hello. It does. It really does. That's what I like. That's why I like that it doesn't have, thank you! Not having a title, because it leaves us to guess. And that's a nice conversation, you know? Wow! A glass. It kind of looks like fruit juice to me. Like a fruit punch. Or a bunch of fruit inside a jar. Alright, guys. Today, we are reading Warrior Cats. Because, we didn't on Wednesday. Jelly beans in an opaque glass. Yeah. But we're also going to do some Stream Raiders. Let me open it. Why does the cooldown? Because remember, that's the smallest cooldown it is. It can only go that small. And I have to have the cooldown because remember, you guys, you would check in like 5 at a time and then it would break it. And then nobody could tell which one was theirs. Yeah, fancy ones. You're drinking liquid XP? Yummy. All I know about Warriors Cats is that a lot of furries have read it. And in my opinion, furries are cool. True. Warrior Cats is your gateway. Whoa! A goblet! With some water in it. Nice. It's the Holy Grail! Da-na-na-na. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just upgrading some stuff here. I have artillery? Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Dang, they got like a leveled out guy real big. I have a war beast too? Nice. Where is the Stream Raider link? It will appear in a second. There you go. There's the Stream Raider link. Alright, I want to be the war beast. I want to be a big fellow. Yes, anybody who doesn't know what Stream Raiders is, it's this. You can click on the link in the chat, or you can type it in from the very top here. Every 5 minutes, you can place a unit, one of these little guys, and then in a half an hour, we fight the boss. And then hopefully win. Yeah. Mr. Beast! What is Mr. Beast up to these days? I haven't seen a Mr. Beast viral video in a long time. But he's still probably really popular with the kids, huh? I have an apple. Yeah! I'm Apple Scapple! No Scapple! It's a real good crunchy one. I'm a fan of really sweet crunchy apples. That's my favorite kind of apple. And these like cosmic crisp apples, that's the kind of apple I'm eating right now. It's really good. Very crispy and nice and sweet. Two wonderful things. Are ones you can trade for pears? You can trade apples for pears? Whoa! Random just jumped. Why did you just jump? That's wild. I'm not a big apple fan, but I see the appeal. I love pomegranate. Do you eat the seeds? Yeah, I do too. Because it's just a hassle to spit them out, you know? I do wish that there could be a pomegranate somewhere that, like, maybe the seeds could dissolve faster or something like that. No! Oh my god. Oh! Oh my god, I think Ash just died. Pomegranates are yummy. Did you know apples? Like, apples have lots of health benefits, and apparently they clean your teeth really well because the acid or whatever chemicals are in an apple reacts with the chemicals in your mouth, and then it, like, helps clean your teeth. You know that? Oh. All I wish is that I didn't have to have, like, the eating dome meme because it changed everything permanently. I know. I eat pomegranates like a wild beast, too. You're a little jokester now. Aww. Critter communication. Alright, warrior cats. You should update your pop self. Maybe get a new color. Put on some new clothes. So, if I remember correctly, because we definitely need an update, there is a soul patrol happening. Because currently, ThunderClan thinks that Soul might have killed Ashfur. They think that he is the murderer of Ashfur. Or saw someone who killed Ashfur. So they're trying to track Soul down. They're on a patrol and they're following alleged sightings of him. Hollyleaf and Lion Blaze are both on that patrol. They're currently in like a little neighborhood, and they ran into a cat that freaked out when they saw them and then ran away. So they're trying to find that cat, I think. So yeah, they're just hanging out in the neighborhood trying to find some witnesses that know where Soul is so they can bring him back to ThunderClan or at least question him. And meanwhile, Jay Feather is back at home and he's feeling really depressed because he's not close with anybody except his siblings, and his siblings are gone. So he feels really sad. He's just a sad boy. And that's pretty much it. They've been traveling for the past 10 chapters, really. And yeah. That's my last bite. I find I can choke on apple juices really easily. I don't know why. Okay. Chapter 10. Hollyleaf shifted uneasily in the makeshift nest under the tree roots. Beside her, Lion Blaze's ears and tail were twitching, as if his sleep was disturbed by dark dreams. Hollyleaf wasn't sure how he managed to sleep at all, so close to the two-leg place. Even in the middle of the night, monsters growled, two-legs shrieked, and dogs barked. I've never been in such a noisy place, she thought.
trying to find a comfortable spot among the dead leaves. How did the kitty pet stand it? Towards dawn, she slipped into a fitful doze, only to be woken again as Lion Blaze scrambled out of the nest, yawning hugely. Hollyleaf followed him. The orange glow in the sky above the two-leg place had given way to the pale light of dawn. The roofs of the two-leg dens were black outlines against the sky. A cold breeze was blowing, and every blade of grass was edged with frost. Brambleclaw and the other clan cat stood gazing across the grass to the outlying dens of the two-leg place. "We need to go back into the two-leg place," Brambleclaw began, "and look for that cat we met last night. He has to explain what he meant." Hazeltail's whiskers twitched nervously. "They obviously don't like strangers around here." Birchfall touched her ear with his nose. There are enough of us here to outnumber a few jumpy kitty pets." Hollyleaf exchanged a glance with her brother. "I think we're on Soul's trail," Lion Blaze murmured, clawing at the grass. "I bet you the fattest foal on the fresh kill pile that he's the reason that black and white cat was so scared of us." Hollyleaf nodded. Curiosity gave her more confidence as she followed Brambleclaw back across the grass and into the gap between the two-leg nests. She could see that her clanmates felt the same, padding along with bright eyes and tails held high. "We're warriors," she reminded herself. "We don't have to be afraid of anything." The breeze strengthened to a bitter cold wind that swept through the world of hard red stone as the patrol padded deeper into the two-leg place. There was barely enough light to make out the right direction, and no sun to melt the ice that covered the puddles beside the thunderpath. "I'm so thirsty," Hollyleaf whimpered. "My tongue feels like a mouse's pelt." While Brambleclaw paused to taste the air, she crouched down beside one of the puddles and touched the ice with her tongue, grateful for the tingling freshness. "Come on," the clan deputy meowed. "This way." Hollyleaf tried to jump up, only to stop with a strangled cry of dismay. Her tongue had frozen to the ice. A sharp pain shot through it as she tried to wrench herself free. "What's the matter?" Lion Blaze asked. "My tongue!" Hollyleaf could hardly get the words out. "It's stuck!" Lion Blaze snorted as he suppressed a roar of laughter. Birchfall stooped down until he was nose to nose with Hollyleaf. Irritation swelled inside her when she saw amusement dancing in his eyes. "It's not funny," she mumbled as clearly as she could with her tongue plastered to the ice. "Ivan!" "Stand back." Breakenfur's calm voice came from behind Hollyleaf. "Let me have a look." He leaned beside Birchfall, gently shouldering the young cat out of his way. "Well, you're certainly stuck," he went on. Hollyleaf could tell that he was struggling not to laugh, too. "I suppose we could break off the ice. Then you'll have to carry it until it melts." "Hey, you've discovered a new way to fetch water for the elders," Hazeltail put in. Her pelt itching with frustration, Hollyleaf tried again to wrench her tongue free, only getting another stab of pain for her efforts. "It hurts! Do something!" "Hi! Hi, Pride! Welcome! I hope you had a wonderful stream playing Elden Ring, the Elden Ring DLC, I'm thinking. I'm in the middle of reading a chapter though, so I'm gonna keep reading. But I hope you had a wonderful stream. Thank you for raiding. Enjoy the rest of the day. Make sure you get up, have some water, stretch, exercise your eyeballs. Thank you. We're only a little bit. I'm just like 2-3 pages into chapter 10. Oh. Wow! Congratulations, Pride! Dang it, I took another bite of the apple. Dun dun. Donna! All right.
Happy eating!
She pictured herself crouched on the hard ground with her tongue stretched out, and suddenly she felt laughter bubbling up inside of her. Guess I do look pretty funny. She couldn't remember the last time she had found anything to laugh at. Hollyleaf. Brambleclaw was at her side. His amber eyes sparkled, but his voice was gentle as he touched his nose to her ear. Breathe out hard. Your warm breath should melt the ice. He crouched down next to her and let out a long breath at the patch of ice where she was stuck. A tickle of warmth spread through Hollyleaf. It was good to be cared for, but the warm feeling turned to ice as Brambleclaw broke off to add, "You know, you're just like your mother. She was always getting stuck in things, too." "She's not my mother." Hollyleaf let out a fierce breath and tugged at her tongue again, gasping as it came free at last. The frozen puddle was glossy with melted water where Brambleclaw had breathed on it, but she wasn't going to thank him. "Right," she meowed, straightening up. I'm okay. Let's..." She broke off as a low growl sounded behind her. Every cat spun around. A couple of fox lengths away, a line of dogs was standing on the other side of the thunderpath, blocking their way. There were 5 of them, all different shapes, from a small, rough-coated brown and white one to a huge black and tan brute. Vicious hatred glared in their eyes.
Thank you for the lick, Kaito!
Hollyleaf heard Hazeltail whisper, "Oh no." "Back away." Brambleclaw's voice was quiet but steady. "Don't turn and run." Fear froze Hollyleaf's paws to the ground harder than ice had trapped her tongue. She couldn't move. It was too easy to imagine the dog's teeth ripping into her pelt, her blood streaming out. She staggered as Lionblaze gave her a hard nudge. "Come on!" he hissed. Suddenly, Hollyleaf found that she could move again. All her instincts were screeching at her to turn and flee, but she forced herself to retreat paw step by paw step. The line of dogs advanced, keeping the same distance between them and the cats. The big black and tan dog opened its jaws to show dripping yellow teeth. A drawn-out snarl came from its throat. "Not much further," Hollyleaf told herself. "Once we're away from this two-leg place, we can climb the trees." Then every hair on her pelt stood on end as she heard another growl from behind. Glancing over her shoulder, she saw that 2 more dogs had appeared, cutting off their escape route. Oh my god, is this a dog pack? They looked as vicious as the first dogs, with gaping jaws and lolling tongues. "We're fresh kill," Bridgefall murmured. At the same instant, the first set of dogs leaped forward. "Run!" Brambleclaw yowled. His hind legs pumping, he headed for a narrow gap with 2 legs nests on one side and a high wooden fence on the other. Hollyleaf and the rest of her clanmates raced after him, with the dogs yelping at their paws. Hollyleaf had never been more terrified in her life, not even when Ashfur had held them prisoner on the burning cliff top. She expected sharp yellow teeth to pierce her flank at any moment. Her paws felt as if they were on fire from running on the hard stone, and her breath tore from her chest. Lionblaze was pelting along beside her, his fur fluffed up so he looked twice his normal size. Hollyleaf knew that he wanted to turn and face the dogs. "No, they'll tear you apart." "Don't leave me," she gasped between panting breaths. Yet more dogs appeared ahead of them, crowding down the narrow alley. Brambleclaw swerved through another gap onto a path between thick hedges. His clanmates strayed hard on his paws, but the dogs were catching up. Hollyleaf realized that their enemies were running steadily, not putting out all their strength, as they waited for the cats to tire so they could be picked off easily. "That's how Crowfeather taught Breezepaw to catch rabbits when we were on the journey to the mountains," she recalled. "But we're the prey now." Suddenly, Brambleclaw halted and squeezed through a narrow gap at the foot of the hedge, his hind paws scrambling as he forced his body through. "Come on!" he panted. "They can't follow us through here." Breaking shoved Hazeltail through next, then Birchfall. "Hollyleaf, quick!" he meowed. Hollyleaf didn't want to leave her brother, but there was no time to argue. She pushed her way through the prickly bushes. Breakenfur followed, and Lionblaze scrambled after him, so quickly that he left some of his golden fur behind on the thorns. "Mangy crow food eaters!" he yowled back through the hedge. Her chest heaving, Hollyleaf glanced around. She was standing on a smooth stretch of bright green grass, surrounded by low-growing bushes. At one side of it was a 2-legged den. All the doors and windows were shut, and there was no sign of any 2 legs. Maybe now we can, Brambleclaw began. He broke off, and Hollyleaf stared in horror as she saw that the hedge stopped near the wall of the two-legged nest, leaving just a low wooden fence to fill the gap. The dogs were leaping effortlessly over the fence and bounding across the grass towards the patrol. Their eyes were gleaming with hunger and scorn, and their growls had changed to joyful yelpings. They're enjoying this, Hollyleaf realized as she turned to flee. Suddenly, the door to the den burst open. A two-leg rushed out, screeching and shaking a long stick at the dogs. Another two-leg followed with a yowl, something shiny in his hands. He swung it towards the dogs. Water cascaded out of it, but the dogs just shook it off. The far side of the two-leg's territory was also bordered by a wooden fence. Brambleclaw raced towards it, waving his tail for the others to follow. Breathlessly, they scrambled up the slippery wood. Hazeltail started to slip back. Breakenfur gave her a shove from below, and Brambleclaw grabbed her scruff to haul her the rest of the way. Hollyleaf realized as she clambered to safety that her paws had left smears of blood on the wood. For a few heartbeats, the dogs jostled one another at the foot of the fence, whining and scrambling as they tried to reach the cats. Brambleclaw gazed down at them, his back arched and his fur bristling with a mixture of terror and anger. "Leave us alone, flea pelts," he hissed. Suddenly, the huge black and tan dog broke away from the rest and raced back across the grass to the low part of the fence near the den. The rest of the pack streamed after him and began jumping back into the alley. "They're coming to get us!" Birchfall gasped. "We can't stay here." Brambleclaw's voice was tense. "Follow me." He leaped down as the first of the dogs appeared around the corner and took off down the alley, his tail streaming out behind him and his belly fur brushing the stone. Hollyleaf and the others pelted after him. "We can't keep this up much longer," Hollyleaf thought. Brambleclaw swerved into a gap and immediately halted. The rest of the patrol piled onto his back. Hollyleaf gazed ahead, terror pounding through her. This alley was a dead end. Straight in front of them was a high wall built of the same red stone as the two-leg nests, and almost as tall. "We'll never climb that." Brambleclaw leapt up the wall but fell back, his straining paws nowhere near the top. Hollyleaf knew that Hazeltail would never manage it, and the hedge on either side looked too thick to get through. "You go on," Hazeltail mewed bravely, even though she was shaking with fear. "Don't worry about me." Breakenfur touched her shoulder with his tail tip. "We can't keep going," he murmured. "We're all too exhausted. There's nowhere left to go." "What about there?" Hollyleaf had spotted a group of tall, shiny objects like very smooth boulders, standing together in one corner. Scents of two-leg rubbish hung around them. She gestured towards them with her tail. "We can hide." Breakenfur glanced around for other cover, but there was none. He nodded swiftly. "Go!" Brambleclaw guided Hazeltail into hiding and shoved Birchfall after her into the narrow space beside the shiny boulders. Hollyleaf and Lionblaze followed, leaving Breakenfur and Brambleclaw to crouch on the outskirts of the space, their ears and whiskers twitching as they waited for the dogs to appear. Hollyleaf was crowded up against Hazeltail. She could feel her clanmate trembling and hear the whimpers of terror she tried to stifle. "I know I'll never see my kids," Birchfall murmured. "I just hope White Wing is okay." Pounding footsteps and loud yelping announced that the dogs had reached the alley. Hollyleaf could smell their stink even over the sense of the two-leg rubbish. "I guess that means they'll be able to scent us too." Then she felt Lionblaze pushing his way past her towards the opening where Breakenfur and Brambleclaw were crouching. With a shock like a rush of icy water, she realized that he was going out to fight the dogs. "No, you can't!" she hissed. "I can!" Lionblaze insisted, turning glowing amber eyes on her. "I won't get hurt. You know I won't." He pushed his way to the edge of the silver boulders, squeezing past Brambleclaw and Breakenfur and ignoring the clan deputy when he asked what in StarClan's name Lionblaze thought he was doing. "Lionblaze, no!" Hollyleaf screeched. "Stop!" Dun, 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 dun! Okay. I was gonna check something, but I can't remember what I was gonna check. So we'll just keep going. Wait, one more apple bite. Apple bite, apple bite. Um. Okay, chapter 11. Oh, by the way, I tried one of the Lindt birthday cake chocolates, and oh my god, they're the sweetest thing you will ever eat in your life. Like, even sweet for me. I can eat really, really sweet things. I'd say that I could only eat one at a time because of how sweet they are. It's crazy. So if you don't like really, 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 really sweet things, then I don't recommend eating them. Oh.
Chapter 11.
Lion Blaze heard his sister screeching, but he ignored it. He knew, with every hair on his pelt, that he could fight the dogs. He could feel his blood pumping hot and fierce through his veins, and every fighting move he had ever learned was at his claw tips. The dogs seemed to approach in slow motion, yet all the time he needed to watch the drool waving from their lips and their paws pounding over the ground. His gaze flickered from one to the other. I'll take out that black and tan one first. When it falls, I'll trip the thin gray one, and the white one too if I'm lucky. Then I'll go for that yapping little horror with black paws. He was dimly aware that his clanmates were yowling behind him, but he still didn't respond. This is my fight! I'm the only one who can save them. Lion Blaze braced himself to leap, spotting the surprise in the leading yellow dog's eyes. You didn't think a cat would turn and fight, he taunted. Well, now's your chance to learn. His words were drowned by a shattering crash. He glanced behind to see that one of the silver boulders had toppled over, sending a silver disc spinning across the ground. It rolled into the pack of dogs. They swerved to avoid it. The rush of their attack halted. To Lion Blaze's surprise, a dark brown tabby she-cat popped up from behind the fallen boulder, closer to the fence than the terrified clan cats were. Quick, she meowed. Help me push this one over. She reared up, resting her forepaws against the side of the next shiny boulder. Brambleclaw sprang up beside her, and together they pushed. The boulder crashed over like the other one, the silver disc on top spinning away. Two-leg rubbish spilled out from inside. The dogs were yelping in frustration, scrambling at the boulder in their efforts to get around them and sink their jaws into their prey. Come on, the strange she-cat ordered. It won't hold them off for long. She dove through the narrow gap at the bottom of the hedge that had been hidden by the silver boulders, and the patrol followed her at full pelt, racing across a wide stretch of pale gray stone. Renewed barking made Lion Blaze glance over his shoulder as he fled. The small brown and white dog and the thin gray one had pushed their way through the gap and were bounding across the expanse of stone. They're coming, he gasped. This way, the she-cat meowed tersely. She led them down a narrow path between two high fences and halted beside a small hole with jagged edges. Through there. Birchfall bundled through first, followed by Hazeltail and Hollyleaf, and Lion Blaze squeezed through after them. He let out a yowl of alarm as he crashed his hind legs overhead into brittle grass. Head spinning, he staggered to his paws to see Brambleclaw already beside him, and the strange she-cat scrambling through the hole. Breaking fur? He asked anxiously. A screech answered him as the Ginger Tom hauled himself through the fence, paws flailing as he tugged at his tail. Foxton! He gasped, collapsing on the grass. That flea-ridden brute bit me! Lion Blaze gave his clanmate's tail a quick sniff. Lion Blaze could see that some of Breakenfur's fur had been stripped off, but there didn't seem to be any blood. You'll be okay, the deputy decided. Where now? The she-cat's reply was drowned out by a flurry of barking. The fence creaked and bent as dogs flung themselves against it. In the two-leg nest around them, lights began to appear in the dark holes in the walls. Lion Blaze heard a two-leg shouting angrily, but the dogs went on barking and pounding at the fence. His belly lurched when he saw that the small brown and white dog had stuck its head through the gap and the wood around it was starting to splinter. The dark tabby she-cat darted forward and slashed her claws at the dog's nose. Yelping, it pulled back. "That'll teach you," she meowed with satisfaction. To the cat, she added, "Quick, follow me." They raced after her to the entrance of a two-legged nest. Brambleclaw skirted to a halt. "We can't go in there," he protested. "It's a two-legged nest." "Fine," the tabby snapped. "Stay out here and get eaten." She squeezed through the skinny gap at the side of the flat piece of wood blocking the opening and disappeared. Brambleclaw and the rest of patrol exchanged confused glances. Then the deputy shrugged and raised his tail, signaling his clanmates to follow. Lion Blaze paused to look back across the grass and saw that the small dog was still scrambling at the gap. It had managed to get its shoulder and one paw through the hole. Lion Blaze felt his fur bristle and grow hot again as he braced himself to fight. He could almost taste the blood and hear the terrified yelping as his claws ripped into his enemy's pelts. Then he heard a crash and a two-leg shouting. It sounded much closer than before. The dog's fierce barking turned to frightened yelps. The little dog struggled backwards to free itself from the hole in the fence, then vanished. Lion Blaze's fur lay flat again as the noise died away. He started to feel disappointed that he hadn't managed to try out his battle skills against the dogs, then jumped as Breaking-Fur nudged him. "Come on," he mewed the ginger Tom, angling his ears towards the entrance to the nest. "What are you waiting for?" The other cats had already gone inside. Lion Blaze pushed his way through the gap, with Breaking-Fur close behind him. He found himself in a small, straight-sided den, his clanmates huddled together in the middle, casting nervous glances around them. He tasted the air. There was a strong scent of cat, but only a very faint, stale trace of two-leg. "That's unusual," he began. "Why—" The brown tabby she-cat paid no attention to him. "This way," she meowed briskly. "Since you're here, you may as well meet the others." She led the way through an archway into a larger den. Light streamed into it from a long slit in the wall. As Lion Blaze padded hesitantly forward, the smell of cats grew overpoweringly strong. It was almost like coming back into camp after a patrol in the forest. Hollyleaf kept close to him, their pelts brushing, while Brambleclaw and Breaking-Fur stayed on the outside of the group. Lion Blaze knew they were ready to protect the younger cats if they needed to, and so am I. If we have to fight our way out, I'm ready. Brambleclaw signaled for his patrol to halt in the center of the den. A broad-shouldered gray tongue sat on a shallow ledge just below the gap in the wall, while a she-cat with a flecked brown pelt was curled up on something like a soft boulder in bright two-leg colors. Warkit suckled at her belly. On the other side of the den, another cat was barely visible as he peered out from underneath some wooden two-leg thing. Lion Blaze caught his breath as he recognized the black and white Tom sitting on top of another soft-looking boulder. He was the cat that they had met the night before, who had run away from them. "I'm Jingo," the tabby she-cat announced before Lion Blaze could speak. "Over there is Husser." She waved her tail at the gray Tom sitting on the ledge, "and the queen with kids is Speckle." "Hi there." Husser meowed with a lazy wave of his tail. Speckle just twitched her ears. She looked wary, as if she was afraid the newcomers might harm her kits. "Over there's Pod," the tabby she-cat went on. The cat underneath the wooden structure blinked at them. "Come out, Pod. No cat is gonna hurt you. And I think you've already met Fritz." As she finished speaking, she leaped up onto the squashy boulder beside the black and white Tom. He stared at the clan cats, wide-eyed, and didn't speak. Brambleclaw stepped forward. "Who did you think we were?" he asked Fritz. When the Tom didn't reply, he turned to Jingo. "When we met him last night, he seemed to think we were connected with another cat, one who talked to you but ended up causing you trouble. Do you know who that was?" "We don't trust strangers around here anymore." Jingo's voice was solemn. "Not since Soul." Lion Blaze felt a jolt in his belly. "We were right! Soul has been here!" "Soul?" Breaking-Fur's neck fur rippled. "You know him then?" Jingo nodded. "He came here last Leaf Bear, but no cat knows where from. He lived on the edge of Two-Leg Place for a while. Then when the weather turned colder, he moved into this abandoned two-leg nest and invited some other cats without housefolk to join him. I was one of the first." Pod emerged from underneath the wood thing, revealing himself to be a scrawny brown Tom, his muzzle gray with age. "Speckle and Fritz came with me." "And I joined later with Husser." Jingo went on. I heard about the community of cats that had made a home for themselves, and it sounded like a good idea. Did Soul act like he was your leader? Lionblaze asked. The patch-pelt loner had tried to take over Shadow Clan. Maybe that wasn't the first time he'd been in control of a group of cats. Yes. Yes, did he ever tell you to believe anything in particular? Hollyleaf added. Jingo looked puzzled. Not exactly. Only that we could live however we wanted to because that's what we deserved. Life was good, he said. Life was not good, Pod snapped. He sat down and lifted a hind leg to scratch behind his ear. We had to do whatever Soul told us to, like bring him food and feathers for his nest. And he scared the little cats by telling them that they'd die without him. It wasn't that bad, Jingo protested. You're just thinking of what happened later. And why wouldn't I? Pod stopped scratching to glare at her. That mouse-brained idiot nearly got us all killed. Fritz nodded vigorously, giving his whiskers a nervous twitch, but he still didn't speak. Lionblaze glanced at Hollyleaf. She looked as shocked as he felt, but her eyes glittering and her claws working on the hard two-legged floor. When Soul had lived in the forest, he never wanted cats to die, Lionblaze thought. Is Hollyleaf wondering if he really could have killed Ashfur? He was distracted by Speckle's 4 kits, who left their mother and scrambled down one after another from their soft boulder. Speckle sat up, watching nervously as the biggest of the 4, a tom with a flecked brown pelt like his mother, bounced up to Brambleclaw. I'm Flisk, he announced. What's your name? Are you coming to live here? Brambleclaw shook his head. We're just passing through. I'm Brambleclaw, he added, addressing all the cats. He went on to introduce the rest of the patrol. Thanks for helping us, he finished, dipping his head to Jingo. The dogs would have ripped us to pieces without you. We'd help any cat in danger from those dogs, Jingo responded, and you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Thank you. Brambleclaw bowed again. Now, could you tell us what Soul did? Jingo settled herself on the soft boulder, tucking her paws underneath her chest. Husser sprang down lightly from the ledge and padded over to sit beside Pod. For the first time, Lionblaze noticed that he had a long scar along his side, where the fur hadn't grown back. Glancing around, he noticed the others had signs of injury, too. One of Fritz's ears was torn, Pod's muzzle was scarred, and the tip of Jingo's tail was missing. These cats have been fighting hard, he murmured to Hollyleaf. He sat down on the hard 2-leg floor, longing for the grass of the forest or the soft moss of his nest in the warrior's den. Hollyleaf sat beside him, her claws still flexing restlessly, and their clanmates gathered around. Soul didn't cause any trouble at first, Jingo began. He kept to himself and stayed out of kitty pet territory. He was the first cat to find this abandoned 2-leg den, Husser put in. Hi, hello. He started inviting other cats to live here with him, cats without housefolk of their own to start with. He said he wanted to keep us all safe, Speckle mewed, creeping a bit closer to the edge of the soft boulder. Thank you for the follow! Pod snorted. More like he wanted us to do things for him, lazy lump. He had an easy life here. That's not fair. Thank you for the follow. Speckle protested. We're safer here than wandering around in the open, sleeping under bushes. So, what happened next? Brambleclaw prompted, before Pod could continue the argument. More and more cats joined him here. Jingo took up the story again. I lived with housefolk then, but I liked the sound of what Soul was doing, so I came to give it a try. I joined soon after her. Husser added, I like the freedom. I could come and go without waiting for my housefolk to let me in and out. Thank you for the flower and the heart kisses. And catching our own prey was better than eating that dry 2-leg food, meowed Jingo. But why did the 2-legs let you stay? Breakenfor asked curiously. Don't they want this nest? Obviously not, Husser replied with a shrug. Two-leg kits used to come here now and again, Jingo explained. They never tried to chase us out, though, and they don't come anymore. Soul told us what to do if adult two legs came, Speckle explained. There's a dark space right at the top of the nest with a pointed roof. Sol told us to hide up there. They did come once or twice, Fritz spoke up for the first time. So we all hid. And the two legs never found us, Speckle added proudly. Even though he had good reasons for not trusting Sol, Lionblaze realized that what he had done here wasn't all bad. The cats had shelter here and support from one another. He wasn't sure why kitty pets would want to come, but it was certainly better for loners than trying to survive in the open through the harsh moons of Leaf Bear. It was like a two-leg place version of a clan. So what went wrong? He meowed. Can't you guess? Jingo replied bleakly. The dogs found us. They couldn't get in here because most of them are too big to get through that narrow gap at the entrance. A little one pushed his way through once. Hazard extended its claws, the beginnings of a snarl in his throat. But he didn't try it twice. But they lay in wait for us whenever we come out, Fritz continued with a shudder, and then they chased us. Clumsy old fish brutes, the tip of Pod's tail twitched. If we did manage to hunt, they stole our prey, Jingo continued, and they killed Flower. Her eyes clouded with sorrow and guilt. She was a beautiful young cat. Her house folks had the den next to mine, and I persuaded her to come here. She bowed her head, and Fritz nudged her shoulder. So how did Sol react to that? Brickenfer asked, after a moment's respectful silence. He told us we needed to show the dogs that we had the right to live here. Hazard took up the story. So we made a plan. He found a small unused den beside that stretch of stone where the monsters sleep. He said if we could lure the dogs in there, they wouldn't be able to get away while we fought them. Fritz shuddered, letting out a frightened mewling sound, and sank his claws into the soft boulder underneath him. Jingle pressed up against him comfortably. It didn't work, Brambleclaw guessed, though Lionblaze already knew the answer to that question. What do you think? Pod spat. Sol showed us how to fight. Jingo went on, we spent a lot of time training. Which meant there wasn't enough time to hunt, Pod interrupted. My belly thought my throat was clawed out. Jingo ignored the interruption. Then Sol said we were ready. He chose a tom called Pepper to go out and catch some prey, and then get the dogs to chase him to the small den. We were all lying in wait, ready to follow the dogs in and fight them. Sol was with us, and when... Why are you talking about that piece of fox dung? A new voice spoke from behind Lionblaze, who glanced over his shoulder to see a black tom standing in the entrance to the den. His fluffed-out fur made him look twice his size, and his tail whipped from side to side. Lionblaze's muscles tensed, a cat who looked like he was ready to attack. But then he realized that the black tom's anger wasn't directed towards him or his clanmates. It's okay, Jet, Jingo replied. These cats asked about... It's not okay, Jet hissed. It'll never be okay. I don't want to think about that cat ever again. Still bristling, he whirled around and disappeared. I'm sorry if we upset him, Hazeltail mewed, gazing after the black tom. It's not your fault, Jingo assured her. Pepper was his littermate, and now he can't bear for any cat to mention Sol. Pepper died? Hollyleaf asked. Hazard nodded, his eyes clouding. Before we even made it into the den, we were hiding on the roof of one of the other dens. We saw Pepper streaking across the stone space with the dogs on his tail. I've never heard such a racket as they were making. Then we heard this awful shriek. Lionblaze's paws tingled as a yowl sounded from outside the den, almost as if Hazard's words had called it up. It was followed by an outbreak of barking, drawing rapidly closer. All the clan cats crouched closer to the ground, frozen by fear, their claws scraping on the hard floor. Pod whisked back underneath the two-leg thing, while Speckle gestured urgently with their tails. Kits, come here quickly! The four kits scrambled back onto the soft boulder, and Speckle circled them protectively with her legs and tail. Only Jingo and Husser seemed calm. Jingo meowed. They can't get in. Lionblaze jumped at the sound of scrabbling just outside the den. Husser leaped to his paws, only to relax a moment later as a ginger and white she-cat poked her head through the entrance. A mouse dangled limply from her jaws. Just behind her, a young gray tabby tom peered over her shoulder. "Oh, it's you, Mary." Huzzer arched his back in a stretch, then sat down again. "And chirp! Come in and meet these new cats." Mary took a step into the den, her green eyes flickering from one clan cat to another. Then she shook her head, mumbled something inaudible around the mouthful of prey, and retreated. Lineblaze heard the sound of her paw steps fading. Chirp, however, padded into the den and sat down, but he stayed near the door and kept casting nervous glances over his shoulder. "We're all just jumpy since the fight with the dogs," Hazar commented. "And can you blame us?" Pod emerged again and gave his chest for a few licks, as if trying to pretend he hadn't shot so quickly into hiding. "Tell us what happened," Lineblaze prompted. "After you heard the shriek, we all raced into the den," Jingo went on, digging her claws into the soft boulder. "Pepper was already dead. The dogs were tossing his body about. We attacked, but there were too many of them, and they were too big and fierce for us. Every cat was injured. The dogs ripped Frosty to pieces, and Jester was so badly wounded that he died after we brought him back here." Lineblaze felt sick. Soul had made a terrible mistake. Wait, should I add these? Huzzard. So it's Huzzar. It's close to hazard. Hussar. Huzzard. But I think I'm going to add these dead cats to our dead cat list, as we have names for them. Let's add some death tolls. So we have Pepper, who died. Then we have Frosty. And then we have Jester. Kept thinking that was being called. Lineblaze felt sick. Soul had made a terrible mistake. Every cat could have died in that single battle, and it was obvious the dogs were still causing trouble. "Ask me if Soul joined the fight." "Oh, he didn't join the..." Pod rasped. Brambleclaw cocked his ears. "Well, he didn't raise a single claw to help us." "Oh my god," the old Tom growled. "He wasn't even there to watch. He just strolled in here while we were licking our wounds." "What happened then?" Breakenfor asked. Jingo twitched her ears. "If he admitted he was wrong, it might have been different. But he insisted that we were the ones who decided to fight." "He's gaslighting them! And it wasn't his fault that we lost. Then he sat down and started washing himself and asked Jet to bring him some food." The audacity of this cat. Holy. If I hadn't held Jet back, he might have ripped Soul to pieces, Huzzar added. Birchfall's whiskers twitched. "I wish he had." Jingo looked surprised, but she didn't ask the young warrior what he meant. "So we asked Soul to leave," she meowed. "We would have driven him out if we had to, but he just told us we were making a mistake and went without a fight." She sighed. "Maybe he was right. I don't know anymore." "No, she was right," Birchfall muttered into Lineblaze's ears. "They're better off without Soul, and so are we." Jingo rose to her paws, yawned and stretched, then sat down again. "That's all we can tell you. Now tell us what you know." Brambleclaw and Breakenfor exchanged a glance. It was Breakenfor who spoke first. "Soul came to the forest where we live," he began. "It must have been after he left you. He went to stay with ShadowClan, a group of cats who live near us, and he persuaded them to stop believing in the warrior code and the spirits of their warrior ancestors." The two-legged place cats glanced blankly at one another. Clearly they had never heard of StarClan or the warrior code. "He can be very powerful when he's trying to persuade you," Jingo murmured. Lineblaze flashed a glance at Hollyleaf. They knew better than most cats how persuasive Soul could be. Maybe Soul was right. Lineblaze couldn't help thinking. In spite of his horror at what the dogs had done, maybe these cats shouldn't blame him because they lost the battle. "Okay, Lineblaze, you're OP. You have OP powers. And also, Soul didn't fight. He flexed his claws, imagining what he would do if he came face to face with one of the dogs. Maybe they should have trained harder. Lion Blaze! So, are you looking for Soul because of what he did to Shadow Clan? Jingo asked. No, it's because another warrior. Birchfall began eagerly. Lion Blaze's belly churned at the thought of discussing Ashfur's murder. Brambleclaw raised his tail to silence the younger warrior. We just need to talk to Soul about something that happened recently, he stated calmly. Have you seen him? No, and we don't want to, Pod growled. Hazar muttered in agreement. But Lion Blaze noticed that Speckle was looking wistful, as if she had better memories of Soul. Are those kids Soul's babies? Oh! I haven't seen Soul, Chirp, who had remained quietly by the door, spoke suddenly, startling Lion Blaze. But I heard he's back. Hazard scraped his claws hard against the floor. He wouldn't dare. Not here, Chirp explained, but on the other side of the two-leg place, where a cat called Purdy used to live. We know Purdy! Lion Blaze exclaimed, remembering the old loner who had guided them on part of their journey to the mountains. Thanks, that's great help, Brambleclaw meowed. We'll go and look for him there. It's too late to go now. Jingo rose to her paws and leapt lightly off the soft boulder to land beside Hazard. You can stay here for the night. Brambleclaw dipped his head. Thank you. You can eat with us, Jingo continued. Come on, Hazard, help me carry the prey. The two cats left and returned a moment later loaded with fresh kill, which they shared among all the cats. Speckle jumped down from her boulder to join them, and her kits scrambled after her. She picked out a mouse for them, and they squabbled happily over it. This isn't what Soul would have taught them, Lion Blaze murmured to Hollyleaf as he crouched to eat a blackbird. Remember how he told Shadow Clan that every cat should feed themselves? He said it was a sign of weakness for any cat to depend on another. Hollyleaf nodded. These cats obviously have a fresh kill pile somewhere, and they hunt for cats who can't hunt for themselves. They're almost like a clan. Looks like they were better off without Soul. But as Lion Blaze spoke, he knew that some of these cats wouldn't agree with him. He had felt the pull of Soul's charm, his quiet authority, and sense that he knew exactly the right thing to do. Jingo and the others must have felt it too, and missed the loner when he was gone. Lion Blaze thoughtfully ate his blackbird. It was plump and juicy, but it had a taint of the Thunderpath about it, and he would have found it hard to choke down if he hadn't been so ravenous. When they had finished eating, Speckle's kits started to bat a scrap of a leaf around, squealing and tumbling over one another in their excitement. Frisk, the biggest and boldest of the four, batted the leaf towards Lion Blaze. Some of Lion Blaze's tensions melted away as he batted the leaf back to the kit. This was almost like playing with the kits back in the stone hollow. Speckle's litter were big and strong, almost ready to become apprentices. Soon they should be learning to fight and hunt, he thought. Should these cats have the skills to teach them properly? Hollyleaf joined in the game too, chasing the leaf and pouncing on it until all four kits collapsed, panting, beside their mother. They're fine kits, Lion Blaze gasped, flopping down on the floor in front of Speckle. They'll grow up to be strong cats. I hope so, Speckle murmured. She bent over Frisk, licking his rumpled fur. Then she looked up again. Whatever you think Soul has done, you're wrong. Lion Blaze's belly lurched as he glanced at his sister. Hollyleaf's green eyes were wide with alarm. How much does this cat know? He was too startled to reply. After a couple of heartbeats, Speckle went on quietly. Soul never gets his own paws dirty. If something has happened, another cat did it. Maybe it's Soul's bidding, maybe not. You won't be able to accuse him of anything. True. He doesn't get his paws dirty.
He won't even hunt for himself. I don't understand. He won't hunt for himself, and yet he tells cats that if they don't hunt for themselves, they're considered weak. He's the exception, I guess.
There was a yearning in her voice. Even though she knew the damage Soul had done here, she clearly wanted him back.
Thank you, Lucid Lucas! You too.
Is Soul the father of your kits? Hollyleaf asked, reaching out her tail to touch the brown queen's flank. Speckle shook her head. Their father left when the dogs started to become a problem. She hesitated, then added almost defiantly, I wanted them to be souls. I know that the other cats say he betrayed us, but we were the ones who decided to fight the dogs. Soul didn't force us to do anything. No, he just made it seem like you couldn't do anything else. Lionblaze couldn't speak the words aloud to Speckle. It was obvious she was still deeply in love with the loner. He and Hollyleaf exchanged another glance. Neither of them had mentioned Ashfur, but Lionblaze knew the Grey Warrior's death must be weighing down on his littermate's thoughts, just as it was his own. Speckle bent her head and went on grooming Frisk. If Soul came back, she mewed between licks, I'd be very glad to see him. Da-na-na! Chapter 12. Alright, let's do our stream, guys. Our stream fellows. Fight! Oops. Guess I need to give some haste too. Bam! Eat some chips while I wait.
Woo! What is this giant guy? Ash? Where did you get that giant monster? Ooh.
Rust archer skin. Alright, let's fight this guy.
Victory! We rule.
Ow.
I want to use... Where's that other guy? Here he is. Whoa! There we go. Alright. You guys can plant some, little warriors. Man, the other day, I had this cereal, and it, like, shredded the top of my mouth while I was eating it. And now everything I eat, like, hurts. Chapter 13? Chapter 12, I lied.
Jay Feather shifted uncomfortably on the bare earth. How was any cat supposed to sleep without a proper nest? But Leafpool had kept him so busy the day before that there had been no time to search for fresh moss. It'll do the den good to be aired out, Leafpool said. Huh! Jay Feather wiggled again, feeling a cold dawn wind ruffle his pelt. The sound of a cat brushing past the bramble screen brought him properly awake. He picked up Leafpool's scent and the smell of moss she carried in her jaws. At last! But why didn't she ask me to help? Jay Feather's paws itched with irritation that Leafpool seemed determined to do even the most basic tasks without him. Does she think I'm too incompetent even to carry moss? But there was no point in protesting. Jay Feather stumbled out of the scoop where his nest should have been and helped Leafpool arrange the moss near a trickle of water where Sick Cat slept. Do you want me to fetch more? He offered. His mentor's only reply was a grunt that could have meant anything. Jay Feather wanted to ask her what was biting her, but he knew she wouldn't tell him anything. She'd probably claw my ears off just for asking, he muttered to himself. The only way I'll get any answers about my own past and what's going on with Leafpool is if I look for them myself. While he pushed the moss tidily into place, Jayfeather cast his mind back to his earliest memories. His littermate's absence stabbed him like a claw. We might find out a lot more if we could share what we remembered. He recalled a long, cold journey, stumbling through snow that reached up to his belly fur, following his mother's scent. No, squirrel flight scent. Pausing with a paw full of moss, he tried to think himself back into that snowbound forest. He strove to distinguish each individual scent. His own, line blazes, holly leaves, squirrel flights, and there was another. Another adult cat, a warm and bulky shape. He never remembered this detail before, but another cat was definitely there, just ahead of squirrel flight, forcing a way through the snow. Who was that? Jayfeather wondered. Did two cats bring us back to the hollow? He needed to ask another cat, one who had been in ThunderClan when Squirrelflight brought her kits to the hollow. But it had been a cat who wouldn't get suspicious about his questions or tell the rest of the clan what he had been asking. Well, there's one cat who doesn't gossip. I'll go get more moss, he meowed, rapidly shoving his last pawful into place. Without giving Leafpool a chance to protest, he brushed past the bramble screen and into the clearing. But instead of heading for the thorn tunnel, he darted across to the elder's den under the hazel bush. Mousefur, he called, ducking under a trailing strand of honeysuckle. The skinny brown elder was curled up near the trunk of the hazel. I hope your tail's on fire. Foxes are invading the camp, she rasped, stifling a yawn. Or that you've got another really good excuse for waking me up. Sorry. Jayfeather mumbled. Mouse dung, that's a great way to start. Don't worry, Longtail meowed peaceably. The blind elder was sitting by Mousefur's side. Jayfeather heard the rasp of his tongue as he gave himself a thorough wash. Mousefur has been asleep for ages. It's time she woke up. Mousefur let out an annoyed hiss. Well, what do you want? I've come to check you for fleas, Jayfeather explained, thinking fast. One of the apprentices brought some back from patrol. He hoped neither of the elders would think to mention his lie to any other cat. I haven't been scratching, Mousefur meowed, but you can check my pelt anyway. She settled herself comfortably with her paws tucked underneath her. Be careful you don't miss any, she added as Jayfeather began prodding her thick, ungroomed fur. You've been Leafpool's apprentice for long enough. Jayfeather bit back an irritated retort as he realized this could be the opening to the conversation he wanted. That's true, he mewed. It was the middle of last leaf bear when I was born, wasn't it? The coldest leaf bear I remember, Longtail agreed. I remember how thick the snow was. The whole clan was stunned when Squirrelflight came back to the hollow with 3 kits. She said they'd been born earlier than she'd expected, which was why she didn't have a chance to get back to the nursery. But even still, what queen plans to have kits in the dead of Leaf Bear? In Star Clan, she had Leafpool with her, Mousefur added, twitching her ears as Jayfeather parted the fur on her head. She'd have been in big trouble otherwise. Leafpool? Jayfeather stopped running his claws through Mousefur's pelt. So Leafpool was the second cat he hadn't been able to identify. She'd never said anything to him about being with Squirrelflight when he was born. Locating a big twig on the ground, he snatched it up behind Mousefur's back and cracked it in his teeth. That's one flea you don't need to worry about, he meowed, trying to sound as if the answer didn't matter very much. He added, Do you remember anything else about Squirrelflight bringing us home? Not a lot, the elder replied. It was so cold and snowy we spent most of our time asleep, that leaf bear. I do remember how surprised every cat was that Squirrelflight hadn't realized how close she was to having her kits when she went away. But then she was always scatterbrained, right from when she was a kit. Did you notice anything odd about that time? Jayfeather asked, cracking the twig again. He hoped Mousefur would think she was infested with fleas. Wouldn't think she was infested with fleas. Odd, Mousefur snorted. Most of what the clan does these days seems odd to me. I remember, Longtail put in. It was around then that Leafpool fed you that funny-tasting herb. Jayfeather's ears pricked. What funny herb? Oh, how should I know? Mousefur muttered. Leafpool brought me some tansy as usual. I think she expects me to live on the stuff every leaf bear. And this weird-tasting stuff was mixed in with it. A tingle in Jayfeather's paws told him that the strange herb was important. Did Leafpool tell you what it was? Mousefur stretched, shaking her pelt. No, I never asked her. When I complained about the taste, she just took away what was left. She said it hadn't been meant for me anyway. Huh? What was it like? Jayfeather pressed, moving across to Longtail to check his pelt. Odd, but not unpleasant. Mousefur mewed. I'd have clawed Leafpool's ears off if she fed me something disgusting. It tasted cold, like frost on fur, and fresh, like grass. And even though it was dry and dusty, right from the back of Leafpool's store, I'd guess. How weird. Jayfeather gave the twig another crack. It's not like Leafpool to get herbs muddled up. Mousefur snorted. She was all over the place trying to help Squirrelflight care for your kits. You kits. The fuss she made. Any cat would think Squirrelflight was the first queen ever to give birth. Really? Jayfeather murmured. Quickly finishing his examination on Longtail's fur and finding a real flea, which he crushed between his teeth, he said goodbye to the elders and headed into the forest to gather moss. As he tugged mouthfuls of it from between the roots of a tree, he wondered what Mousefur's mystery herb could have been. It was strange that Leafpool hadn't told Mousefur what the herb was or who it had been meant for, and stranger still that Leafpool, who was always so careful, had made the mistake. I need to find out what that herb was, Jayfeather thought, gathering up his moss to carry it back to the camp. When he returned to the medicine cat's den, he found that Leafpool had already gathered more bedding while he was talking to the elders. Did you go to RiverCon to find that moss? She demanded. Or have you been mooning about the forest again? No. Jayfeather dropped his bundle and started to arrange it in his own nest. I thought I'd check on the elders first. When Leafpool didn't respond, he added, Mousefur told me a weird story. She said you gave her a funny-tasting herb once, mixed up with her tansy. A pulse of alarm came from Leafpool, but she mewed. I don't remember that. When was this? Oh, a long time ago. Something told Jayfeather not to be too specific. He didn't want his mentor to know that he had been asking questions about his birth. Do you know what it was? Leafpool let out an annoyed hiss. How am I supposed to know? For StarClan's sake, do you think I don't have more important things to worry about? If you're so bored that you have to start asking about something that happened last Leaf Fair. Oh! That happened last Leaf Fair. I can soon find you something to do. We're still short of moss in here, so you can get on with that. Okay. Jayfeather was glad to leave, but I never mentioned last Leaf Bear, he thought as he padded across the clearing. He had sensed his mentor's fear, too. Leafpool was lying. She knows what the herb was, and she knows it's important. I must be getting close to the truth, and Leafpool doesn't want me to find it. It's a real mystery! A real mystery at foot! Ooh, a battle royale happened.
Hi, John! How are you? Hi, Diggy! How are you today? You came right while I was between chapters. Usually I read Warrior Cats every Wednesday, but I ate some yucky Ovaltine on Wednesday and my tummy was upset, so I had to move it to Saturday. Nice and cozy while already. Very nice. Alright. Let's get back to it.
Like your little emote is drawing with a shovel. Hollyleaf blinked in surprise when she woke among the stone walls of the two-leg nest instead of under the branches of the warrior's den and ThunderClan camp. Then she remembered their journey to find Soul, and how Jingo had brought them to this abandoned two-leg nest to save them from the dogs. As Hollyleaf sat up, her brother yawned and stretched. "I don't like this place," he muttered. "It's time we left." Hollyleaf murmured in agreement. It wasn't right for warriors to be so close to all this two-leg stuff, even though there were no two-legs here. The pale light of dawn flooded into the den through a gap in the wall. Looking around, Hollyleaf saw that Birchfall and Hazeltail were still asleep. Breakenfur was perched on the ledge under the gap where Huzzer had sat the night before. There was no sign of Brambleclaw, but a moment later he sprang up from outside and squeezed through the gap to sit up beside Breakenfur. "All's quiet," he reported, "but there's a strong smell of dog." Hollyleaf twitched her whiskers. She couldn't pick up the rank scent even in here. Oh, she could pick it up. "We have to get moving," Breakenfur meowed. "Have you seen Jingo?" Brambleclaw shook his head. Speckle and her kits were curled up in a fuzzy heap on one of the soft boulders, while Fritz and Pod were sleeping on the other. There was no sign of the other two-leg place cats. "She'll be here somewhere." Brambleclaw jumped down inside the nest. "I think we can trust her."
What do I do? Well, I game, but today I'm reading. How do? I do good. I hope you do good too. I like that your name is Pickle Candy. Like what would that taste like? Now I'm curious. Now I want to know. Pickle Candy. It's okay? Your day or Pickle Candy? Okay, I can't really chat because we're in the middle of a chapter, but once I finish this chapter, then I can chat a little more. Both! Confirmed Pickle Candy exists. Scary. Terrifying. He padded over to prod Birchfall and Hazeltail awake. As the two younger warriors were blinking sleep away, Jingo padded in through the entrance to the den. "Good, you're ready," she mewed, with a brisk nod of greeting. "Let's go." She led the way into the two-leg territory through the gap in the wall. "This journey's gonna be a bit different," she warned the clan cats when they were all in the raw, damp air of the leaf-bare morning. "We won't be setting paw to the ground until we get where we're going." Hollyleaf shot a startled glance at her clanmates and saw that they were all looking equally surprised. How could they get anywhere if their paws didn't touch the ground? Was Jingo expecting them to fly? "It's not safe to walk around on the ground since the battle with the dogs," Jingo explained. "The dogs lie in wait for us and hunt less like prey." Shuddering, Hollyleaf leaned in closer to Lineblaze. "That's exactly what happened to us yesterday." Her brother nodded. His amber eyes were gleaming and his claws flexed as if he was imagining his chance to slash a dog that attacked him or his clanmates. Better to stay out of their way, Hollyleaf thought. "So we found a different way of moving around our territory," Jingo went on. Gracefully, she leaped up on top of the two-leg fence. "Ready?" she called, glancing over her shoulder at the clan cats. Brambleclaw quickly leaped up beside her, followed by the rest of the patrol. Jingo set off, balancing easily on the narrow fence, then turning a corner to pad past several two-leg dens, with a small thunderpath on one side. Can you imagine watching, like, a trail of, like, 6 cats walk along a fence together? Wild. Hollyleaf stiffened as the door to one of the two-leg nest opens and a little white dog bolted out. Its high-pitched yapping filled the air. "It's okay," Jingo reassured the clan cats. "That's a house dog. It's a stupid nuisance, just like the others, but it's not dangerous like the wild dogs." Hollyleaf had to take her word for it, but as she watched the dog bounding along the bottom of the fence and scrambling about in the earth under a bush, she was glad that she wasn't down below where it could get at her. She dug her claws more firmly into the narrow strip of wood under her paws and focused on the tip of Lineblaze's tail. The fence came to an end at a row of small dens with flat roofs. "Those are monster nests," Jingo told them, leaping up onto the nearest roof. "Monsters have nests?" Hazeltail exclaimed. "Sure,"
Jingo waved her tail to where the two-leg was approaching at the edge of the thunderpath. Watch. The clan cats jumped up onto the roof beside her and watched the two-leg as it opened the door of one of the dens and vanished inside. A moment later, they heard the throaty growl of a monster. It nosed its way out of the den and headed down the thunderpath with the two-leg in its belly. Great Star Clan! This is where they sleep! Birchfall's neck fur was bristling. Yes, but they can't climb up here, Jingo meowed. Let's get on. The patrol easily bounded across the flat roofs until the cats came to another fence and more two-leg dens. Daylight was strengthening and a stiff wind had sprung up. Hollyleaf gripped her claws with every step, scared that she would be blown off her skinny perch. So this was what Jingo meant by not setting paw on the ground. Not flying, but staying high up, out of reach of the wild dogs. She tried to imagine not daring to set paws on the ground in the forest and having to leap from tree to tree to avoid being chased and killed. No cat should be forced to live like this. At the next corner, the fence gave way to a wall built of red stone. The top was wider and it was easier to pad along. The thunderpath here was wider too, with stone trees growing at both edges, and a few monsters prowling along it. Ever so often, the wall was interrupted by a lower section of wooden fence. Jingo slid down onto it, padded quickly across, and leapt up onto the wall on the other side. Clan cats followed. Hollyleaf's pelt prickled with fear as she remembered how the dog pack had leaped the low fence the day before. But no dogs appeared, and every cat reached the other side of the wooden fence safely. Further along the wall, Jingo halted. Peering past her, Hollyleaf saw that one of the wooden sections had been swung back, leaving a gap between their stretch of wall and the next. As if at a signal, a flurry of barking broke out somewhere behind them, and a gust of wind brought the scent of dogs. We'll have to jump, Jingo decided. Get back a bit. Leave me some space for a running start. Once the clan cats had shuffled backwards, Jingo bounded along the wall and took off from the end into a powerful leap, landing neatly on the other side. The clan cats glanced at one another. Hollyleaf could see that Hazeltail and Birchfall were both looking nervous. I'll go next, she meowed, deciding it would be better to get this over with than watch her clanmates go ahead of her. She hurled along the wall into the air before she could think about the wide gap in the nearby dogs. Her paws hit the red stone of the wall, and Jingo jumped forward to steady her. Well done, the brown tabby mewed. Move along to give the others space. Hollyleaf squeezed past her, turning in time to see Breakenfur leaping easily across the gap. Birchfall followed him. The young warrior's front paws landed on the wall, but his hind paws dangled down. His eyes were huge with fear as the barking grew louder, and two dogs raced around the corner. Quick as lightning, Breakenfur grabbed Birchfall's scruff in his teeth and hauled him the rest of the way. His tail whisked up just in time, just out of reach of the leading dog's teeth. Birchfall shuddered. Thanks, Breakenfur. I thought it was dog food for sure. Hazeltail was shivering on the other side of the gap, gazing down in terror at the barking dogs as they reared up on their hind legs and scrambled at the wall. I can't, Brambleclaw, she whispered. I just can't. I know I'll fall. No, you won't, the clan deputy assured her. You're good at jumping. You'll be fine. If you fall, I'll leap down and fight the dogs, Lion Blaze promised. With a despairing look at both of them, Hazeltail moved back a couple of foxlings and bounded to the end of the wall. Both dogs hurled themselves at her as she leapt, but she cleared the gap with a tail length to spare, and was welcomed on the other side by a quick lick on her ear from Birchfall. Lion Blaze followed, and then Brambleclaw, and the cats set off again, with the dogs pacing alongside a fox length below, whining and yelping in frustration at not being able to reach their prey. Hollyleaf wondered if there was any way of shaking them off. The two-leg place wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, they would have to come down to the ground, and then they would be ripped to pieces. Where do you think you're going? A new voice came up from ahead. Hollyleaf spotted a huge, blue-furred Tom standing nose to nose with Jingo. He had sleek, well-fed look of a kitty pet, but his neck fur was beginning to fluff up and his blue eyes were unfriendly. Just passing through, Jingo replied calmly. Well, get a move on, the kitty pet growled. I'm going home for some sleep. I don't want to listen to that racket all day. Those dogs wouldn't be here if you hadn't brought them. Anger lit up Lion Blaze's eyes, and he began to push forward along the edge of the wall to stand beside Jingo. Hollyleaf's fur prickled. Starting a fight here would probably end with both cats falling off the wall into the waiting jaws of the dogs. Brambleclaw raised his tail to halt Line Blaze. "Stay out of it, unless the kitty pet attacks," he ordered. "Let Jingo handle it." Line Blaze obeyed, but he kept his furious gaze fixed on the kitty pet. "You're the one who's holding us up," Jingo replied, still calm. "If you weren't stuck there in the way, we'd be long gone." The blue-furred Tom let out an angry snort, but said nothing more. Instead, he leapt down into the two-leg territory, raced across to the nest, and vanished through a small hole in the door. Hollyleaf relaxed. They had more important things to do than teach kitty pets some manners. Still, with the dogs following, they padded further along the wall until they came to another corner. "This is where we can get rid of the dogs," Jingo told them. Turning a corner, she led the way along a narrow wooden fence between two-leg dens. There was no way for the dogs to follow, even though they tried to push themselves into the gap at the foot of the fence. Their frustrated yelping sounded behind Hollyleaf as she and her clanmates approached the nest. "This way, and watch where you're putting your paws." Jingo sprang up into a narrow, flat area above the entrance of the two-leg nest, then clawed her way up a creeper that grew alongside it until she had reached the edge of the two-leg roof. "It's not hard," she called down, beckoning with her tail. "And hedgehogs can fly," Birchfall muttered. But when it was Hollyleaf's turn to climb, she realized that Jingo was right. The creeper had thick, twisted stems that created plenty of paw holds, and it was strong enough to bear even the weight of Brambleclaw and Line Blaze. But the edge of the roof felt unsteady, and Hollyleaf tried unsuccessfully to dig her claws in, terrified that the wind would blow her off. "Where now?" Brambleclaw panted as he hauled himself over the edge to stand beside Jingo. As an answer, the brown tabby she-cat began scrambling up the steep slope of the roof. "This is a good shortcut," she meowed. "We can't go up there," Hazeltail gasped. "We'll fall." "If Jingo can do it, we can do it," Briggenford declared firmly. "Up you go, Hazeltail. I'll be right behind you." Slipping and scrambling, the clan cats clawed their way up the slope to where Jingo was sitting, with her tail curled around her paws, at the very top of the roof next to a couple of tree stumps made into stone. "It's great up here," she mewed as Hollyleaf struggled up the last fox length to join her. "Sometimes I come just to look." "You come up here even if you don't have to?" Hollyleaf felt as if her claws had been worn away in the desperate climb. A sharp ridge stretched away in both directions. It felt far too narrow to balance on. Wind buffeted her fur and plastered her whiskers to the side of her face. Not wanting to let Jingo know how uneasy she was, she forced herself to look up from her clinging claws. Instantly, she forgot to be scared. She could see forever, all the way across the tumbled roofs of the two-leg place to the flat stretch of rough grass that covered the cliffs above the sun-drowned place, and beyond that, over the gray, heaving waves as far as the horizon. "Look!" Line Blaze yowled, dragging himself up to balance on the ridge beside Hollyleaf. "You can see the mountains!" Hollyleaf twisted around to stare in the opposite direction. After the edge of the forest, the mountains lay like a smudge of cloud on the horizon. She could make out gray slopes and cliffs and peaks tipped with snow reaching up to the sky. "Do you think we're as high as we were in the mountains?" she asked wonderingly. "Of course not." There was a hint of scorn in Line Blaze's voice. "Took us ages to climb up the waterfall." Hollyleaf realized he was right. And yet the mountain seemed so close she could almost imagine leaping off the roof and landing on the ledge that led behind the waterfall to the cave where the tribe of rushing water lived. "I wonder what they're doing," she murmured, half to herself. "Will we ever see Stormfur Brook again?" No cat answered her. As soon as the rest of the patrols had reached the roof ridge, Jingo rose to her paws. "For this next bit, you'll have to be extra careful," she warned. "Going down is far harder than going up. If you slip, well, just don't slip, that's all." Cautiously, in a half-crouch, Jingo led the way down the other side of the roof. Hollyleaf's paws skidded on the smooth stone of the roof, where there was nothing to hold on to, and the downward slope seemed to end in empty air. When she was halfway down, a big white bird swooped past her, letting out a raucous cry and filling the air with the beating of its wings. Hollyleaf froze, trying to dig her claws into the stone until it was gone. "I am never doing this again," Birchfall hissed behind her. Hollyleaf was shaking by the time they reached the edge of the roof and perched on a narrow channel half choked with leaves and other debris. A couple of fox lengths below was a flat roof, and just beyond that, a narrow thunder path. "Is that another monster nest?" Hazeltail asked. Jingo nodded. "We'll have to come down to the ground here," she meowed, "because we have to cross that thunder path." But I think we're safe now. The wild dogs don't often come this far. Then she reached the grass behind the thunderpath. When she reached the grass behind the thunderpath, Hollyleaf tasted the air. She could pick out the mingled scents of several dogs, but none of them were close by, and no monsters appeared as Jingo paused to listen, then waved her tail for the clan cats to cross. Once on the other side, Jingo jumped onto the other wall. This one was built of gray stone. Padding along it, Hollyleaf saw that the two-leg nests here were smaller, with narrow strips of grassy territory behind them. A couple of tiny two-leg kits were playing on one of the patches of grass, but they didn't notice the cats as they padded past. Is it much further to Purdy's nest? Breakenfur asked. I think every cat is getting tired and hungry. Hollyleaf muttered in agreement. Every muscle in her body was aching, and her belly felt like a giant hole. The sky was covered with cloud, but she sensed it was long past sun-high, and no cat had eaten since the fresh kill in the abandoned two-leg nest the night before. Not far now, Jingo responded. We can... She broke off as a gust of wind swept across them, bringing with it a slap of icy rain. Birchfall let out a yowl of alarm. Hollyleaf flattened herself to the top of the wall, terrified that the wind would blow her off. This way, Jingo ordered. She ran across the top of the wall to the fence dividing the two-leg territories. A bushy pine tree grew close to the wall. Jingo sprang up onto the nearest branch and forced her way among the needles. Peering out, she called, Come on, we need to shelter. Unbalanced by the buffeting wind, the clan cat scrambled along the wall and climbed into the tree. Hollyleaf's pelt was soaked by the time she reached it. The pine needles raked through her fur as she plunged into the branches, clawing for paw holds so she could climb higher. What does she think we are, squirrels? Lineblaze gasped as she struggled upwards. The branches dipped and swung under his greater weight, and Hollyleaf suddenly felt the whole tree spinning around. She drove her claws hard into the branch and closed her eyes until the dizzy sensation faded. I thought you came from a forest, Jingo meowed, a tail length above Hollyleaf was clinging. Aren't you used to trees? We don't climb them that often, Brambleclaw replied. He had stayed lower down in the tree, just above the spot where it overhung the wall. If we're caught in the rain in the forest, we'd rather shelter among the roots of a tree or under a bush. Well, you learn something new every day, Jingo responded, sounding amused. By the time the rainstorm was over, Hollyleaf could tell that the daylight was beginning to fade. I hope we reach Purdy's den before nightfall. I don't want to be wandering around this two-leg place in the dark. Scrambling out of the tree after her clanmates, she tried to groom the pine needles from her fur, but the whole of her pelt was clumped and messy. I might as well be a rogue, she thought crossly, not a clan cat at all. Then a deeper pang shook her. Maybe that's what I am. A patrol followed Jingo along more walls and fences, and over the roofs of another set of monster nests, until twilight began to spill from the shadow. Eventually, Jingo halted at the corner of a wall. I feel like I'm being in my last few days. Feel like I'm back in my last few days of high school. Were you reading Warrior Cats in high school? Ow. I read Warrior Cats in middle school. Hi, Cordy! See that holly bush? She meowed, waving her tail in the direction of a dark, bushy mass poking over a fence on the other side of a small thunderpath. Purdy's den is just beyond it. Thank you, Jingo, Brambleclaw meowed. We would have never found it without you. You're welcome, the she-cat replied. You'll be able to hunt and spend the night there. But be careful, she added more seriously. Soul has a way of making cats believe in him. I know, because I believed in him too. Enough to leave my housefolk, where I was happy. In the gathering dusk, her eyes shone with sadness. Why don't you go back to your housefolk? Birchfall asked. Because the other cats need me, Jingo replied. Every cat needs a leader, someone to follow, someone to make the hard decisions. That's why we listen to Soul, but it's my job now. I can't leave them. Loneliness throbbed in her voice. Holly felt desperately sorry for her. A clan leader was chosen through the warrior code and given 9 lives by StarClan. It was a huge honor, and the leader had the support of the clan deputy, the medicine cat, and the senior warriors. but Jingle had no one. The tabby she-cat gave herself a shake, as if getting rid of useless regrets. She touched noses with each of the clan cats. "Goodbye and good luck," she meowed. "Come and see us if you ever pass our nests again." "We will," Brakenfur promised. "Goodbye and good luck to you, too." Jingo dipped her head as the other cats added their goodbyes and turned to pad along the wall, back the way she had came. Her head and tail were lifted high. "Goodbye, Jingo Star," Brambleclaw whispered, too softly for the retreating she-cat to hear him. "May StarClan light your path." The end of Hamlet hit hard. I've never read Hamlet. We read Romeo and Juliet, and what's the one with the M? It starts with an M. Macbeth! We read Macbeth. We read Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth. And nothing else. Yeah. I wonder why we never read... How did they decide which Shakespeare we read, you know? I feel like Hamlet would have been better because we could have just watched the Romeo and Juliet movie, you know what I mean? We got the same idea. The Crucible. I don't know what that is. We read Catcher in the Rye. We read that one as well. And then in my grade 12 class, we read, we didn't read, we studied Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. Like, we had a unit on Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall. So we studied, like, the songs, and then there was, like, I guess there was a Pink Floyd movie or something, so we watched that. It was wild. Apples. Scrumptious. Okay. Chapter... Oh. Wait, what chapter is this? Is this even another chapter? In one class, we read the things we carried by Tom... We read the things we carried by Tom O'Brien. Things we carried. I don't know what that one is either. I know we read some book in grade 12 as well, but I didn't read it. I like read the spark notes of it. So clearly I didn't remember anything because I didn't read it. It was hard for me to read books at a certain point because I wanted to read my own books for one, and also whenever I was reading them I would be like, well, I could be doing my other homework right now, the stuff that I had to write down. Audiobook is so smart. I can't believe I never thought of using an audiobook. I was like, the smartest thing I've actually ever heard. Like, you could just listen to it while you're doing other things. That's insane. That's so smart. I feel like my life has been changed like several years too late. Like I should have been. Would I pay attention? Good question. Good question. I've never actually listened to an audiobook, so I don't know if I would pay attention. But it's got to be the same as when they read to you in class. Like, you read the books in class, too. Oh, yeah. Stream Raiders. Go! Oh. High ground. Go! I was in class and the teacher thought it was music till she realized I was doing the work and getting there. That's so smart. You could be like, actually, I'm listening to the book. Do Hazard, and we'll do Lord Film. And the next time Ash can get one.
Woohoo!
This time I will use my fairy. Yeah, everyone wanted to know how it ended because they were too slow to get to the end, so they started... That's so funny. Like, oh, tell me what happened. You're right, though. It does, like... It would be so much easier because my mind gets distracted while I'm reading, or I just read something and I don't read it, really. I'm just, like... It's like I'm reading it, but I'm not reading it. But I imagine, like, listening to an audiobook would be a lot easier to do. Like, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and it's, like, pretty much the same. Are you dyslexic? Yes. Based on sentence. It's so funny. I am. Classic. That's why when I'm reading Warrior Cats, it's been really nice because it's almost like I'm practicing. Even though technically when I'm reading in like other things, I mess everything up anyways. Oh, apple. So yummy. I didn't think I was dyslexic because it's how we read it and process it. That makes so much sense. I used to not think I was because there was this girl and in high school, and she always said that she was like the only person I knew who was dyslexic. Like, she would treat it as if it was like she was diagnosed with dyslexia. And it, like, really, like, debuffed her. And she would say, like, the way that it worked was that she looks at a page and all the words come floating up and then they mix up in front of... Like, it's, like, this whole, like, experience of, like, the words lifting up and mixing up. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. I don't have that. But for me, it's, like... It's almost like my eyes read... the end of the sentence before I get through it. Like when I read, it's almost like I'll read the line underneath it and I'll mix the words from the line underneath it to the line on top of it. Or something like that. Get lost in words sometimes. Yeah, and then of course there's the times where you just read it and you're not reading it. Nothing processes in your brain. I think she must have had like a really bad case of it, you know? Which is fair. But she was also one of those kids that was really attention seeking. Like, she needed to be like the center of attention all the time. Some of the worst times that I have like mixing up the words is when it's like a word and then the letters mix up within the word, and I keep reading it as the mixed up word. Like this one time I was at work and I had to put up this sign, and I was so sure it was a specific word, and I was looking, I forget what the word was, but I thought it was a car thing, and I was like looking everywhere for this dang car thing. And then like an hour and a half later, after rereading it several times, when I finally looked up the item in Google to see what it looked like, it all of a sudden clicked and it flipped back to normal, and it was a dog treat. Like, hello? What? I've had the teacher ask me to read out loud for the class and then ask me about it, and I responded with, I don't remember. Right? Like, sorry, I'm so focused on reading. Hi, Ash. I'm so focused on reading and not messing up in front of the class. I'm not gonna pay attention to what I'm reading, lady. Crazy stuff. I also had like severe anxiety, so if I knew that we had to read in front of out loud, I would ignore everybody reading and like mathematize which part of the book I would have to read. Like if it was like everybody reads a paragraph, so I would count how many people it was until it was my turn, how many paragraphs they would really read, and then I would go to my paragraph and I would reread it over and over and over and over and over again until it was my turn to read it. So in the end, I remembered nothing at all from the entire reading things. Happy dinner time, Hazard! All right, let's continue. I think are we in a new chapter or just a separate thing? I don't know, it doesn't tell me. But I learned that I memorized if someone reads it out loud. Oh, that's good. So that makes sense why the audiobooks really worked for you, because you could really pay attention when other people were reading. All right. I can't do online classes are insanely difficult. Like it's not the same. It's not the same. You can't do either online classes or reading, or you can't read or listen. Ash, this is the most times I've ever seen you use an exclamation mark. It's very exciting. Read or listen to reading. Oh. Hollyleaf crouched just behind Brambleclaw in the shadows underneath the holly bush. The two-legged den beyond looked even more abandoned than the one where Jingo and the others lived. Dark holes gaped in the walls and roof. Remember when we met Purdy on the way to the mountains? Lionblaze murmured into his sister's ear. He said his upwalker had died. Maybe Purdy won't be here after all, Hollyleaf suggested. She wasn't sure whether she would be glad or sorry. She looked forward to meeting the cranky old cat again, but she was afraid of what the encounter with Soul would bring. There's only one way to find out, Brambleclaw meowed. He began to pick his way through the straggling bushes that surrounded the nest. Hollyleaf's jaws flooded as she picked up a strong smell of mouse. Pray! Hazeltail's voice was sharp with hunger. Brambleclaw, may we hunt? The clan deputy hesitated for a heartbeat. Okay, he meowed. But let's make it quick, and don't leave this bit of territory. The patrol scattered among the bushes. Hollyleaf soon pinpointed a mouse scurrying through the dead leaves and killed it with a swift blow. Thanks, StarClan, she mumbled through the first delicious mouthful. It felt as if she hadn't eaten for a moon. She had just finished gulping down her fresh kill when she heard Brambleclaw calling the patrol together. As she slipped through the bushes, another mouse practically ran across her paws. She held it down and bit its throat, then carried the limp body back to her clanmates. You some other things you don't know about? They didn't tell you what you were diagnosed with, but that you were diagnosed with other stuff? That's weird. The others were waiting for her. Lion Blaze was swallowing the last of his prey while Birchfall swiped his tongue around his jaws with a satisfied expression. Everyone fed? Brambleclaw asked. Hollyleaf, are you going to eat that? Hollyleaf shook her head. I already ate, she explained around the mouths. I thought we could give this to Purdy. Brambleclaw nodded approvingly. Good idea. Let's go then. Cautiously, stopping every few paw steps to listen and taste the air, he led the way up to the two-leg nest and through the dark, gaping entrance hole. Hollyleaf shivered as she stepped inside. It was even colder here than outside, a raw cold that struck upward from the damp stone wall. Brambles grew through the gaps in the walls, as if the territory outside was invading the nest. There was a musty smell that made up of stale prey, rotting leaves, and mold. But there was the smell of cats, too, stronger and fresher than the other scents. Purdy? Brambleclaw called. There was no reply. The deputy padded forward, with the patrol clustered tightly together behind him. Every hair on Hollyleaf's pelt prickled. There was something strange about this place, something chilly and unwelcoming. Then a new voice spoke behind them. Are you looking for me? Is it Soul? Ah, speech impediment. Can't remember the rest, but they showed me how to work around it. Oh, that's good. At least they taught you how to work with it. Or work around it. Okay, now we're on another chapter. I think. Yeah. Chapter 14. My nose is so itchy. Hunger Games. What does that do? It makes you start a fight. Look at you guys fighting it out. Hollyleaf whirled around. Behind her, in an arched opening, a tall, well-muscled cat was outlined against the desk. The white patches on his pelt shone very brightly. Okay, it's Soul, but they walk into the den and they're like, Purdy, are you here? And then Soul comes out and is like, are you looking for me? Like, no, we're looking for Purdy, bro. We said his name. What's your problem? Soul! Hazeltail's gasp was amazed and terrified all at once. She really thinks Soul is the killer, Hollyleaf thought. She was aware of the bristling pelts and stiff limbs around her, but as soon as she looked into Soul's glowing amber eyes, Hollyleaf felt herself relaxing. How could she have forgotten how wise he was, how calm and certain he was about the future? Nothing troubled him, because he already knew what to expect. Greetings, Soul. Brambleclaw stepped forward. Yes, we're looking for you. You need to come back to ThunderClan. Soul looked into the eyes of each cat in turn. Something has happened. Hollyleaf felt a jolt in her belly, as if a stone had struck her. What does he know about Ashfur? We just need you to come with us, Brambleclaw meowed. Firestar wants to talk to you. Soul's eyes narrowed. Something has happened that you think concerns me. Something bad. You wouldn't come all this way to thank me. He paused thoughtfully. A cat has died. Behind Hollyleaf, Birchfall caught his breath. No, Soul corrected himself. A cat has been killed, and you think I'm responsible. The tip of his tail twitched, but he betrayed no other emotion. I'd be terrified if any cat accused me, Hollyleaf thought, scraping her claws against the cold stone. But Soul just surveyed the patrol calmly and waited for them to speak. "He must be guilty," Hazeltail whispered to Hollyleaf. "He didn't even ask who died."
Soul, is that you? Soul, is that you?
A frail voice broke the silence, and Purdy appeared in the entrance, dragging a scrawny rabbit behind him. He was thinner than when Hollyleaf had last seen him, and his tabby pelt looked messier than ever.
Look what I got.
Purdy dropped the prey and looked up. He blinked in astonishment as he recognized the clan cats.
If it ain't Brambleclaw, he exclaimed, and Hollypaw and Limepaw. I hope you two youngins are behaving yourselves.
"Yes, we are," Lionblaze replied, patting forward to touch noses with the old loner. "And we're warriors now, Lionblaze and Hollyleaf."
Well, who'd have thought? Purdy's eyes gleamed. Well done, youngsters.
For a few heartbeats, Hollyleaf felt like an apprentice again. She should have been insulted that Purdy still thought of her and her brother as young cats who were always getting into mischief. Instead, she yearned for the days when everything had seemed so simple. And all that she could do was make herself the best warrior she could.
How's that brother of yours? Purdy asked.
"He's Jayfeather now," Hollyleaf replied. "He's a full medicine cat." Purdy shook his head again.
Who'd have thought it?
He repeated. Brambleclaw padded forward and dipped his head to the old loner. "Greetings, Purdy. It's good to see you again. Come and meet my other clanmates. This is Birchfall, and this is Hazeltail and Rakenfur."
Good to know you,
Purdy mumbled, looking a bit embarrassed to be among so many strangers. "I'm sorry, Purdy." Soul stepped forward to stand in front of the old cat. "I have to go." Purdy blinked in astonishment.
What? Why?
When Soul didn't reply, he added,
I know you've only been here a couple of days, but I reckon we were getting on fine. This old nest don't feel half as empty with you around, and look!
He waved his tail towards the rabbit he had dragged in.
I found us some prey. It's a bit old and scrawny, but it can make a good meal.
His voice trailed off, and he hunched his shoulders.
"You enjoy the rabbit, Purdy,"
Soul mewed gently, his amber eyes glowing.
"I think ThunderClan wants to leave at once."
What's all the rush? Purdy turned to Brambleclaw. Why you need Soul to leave with you right now? Couldn't y'all stay here a bit longer? You'd be right welcome.
"Let Soul stay here," Hollyleaf wanted to speak back the words out loud. "We don't need to take him back. Purdy needs him more than we do." But she knew that was impossible. "We'll stay for the night," Brambleclaw decided, "but we'll have to leave at dawn."
Fine.
Purdy's ears perked up.
Have some old rabbit. Have some old this rabbit,
he invited proudly. "Thank you," Brambleclaw replied, his voice gentle, "but we can catch our own to add to your fresh kill pile." "I brought you a mouse," Hollyleaf added, snatching up her prey and dropping it at Purdy's paws. The old tabby's eyes shone.
That's right kind of you.
He crouched down and tucked in. The clan cats headed for the entrance to the den. Rakenfur glanced back at Soul, who was still standing in the middle of the den.
"Don't worry,"
Soul meowed.
"I'll be here when you get back."
Rakenfur still looked uncertain as they padded through the entrance. Brambleclaw shouldered his way through him and murmured into his ears, "Stay on guard, but keep out of sight." Rakenfur gave him a relieved nod and crept underneath the low-growing branches of a nearby bush, where he crouched with his gaze firmly fixed on the den. Darkness had fallen while the cats were inside. The harsh orange light of the two-leg place covered the sky, blotting out the stars. Hollyleaf wished she could have seen the spirits of the clan warriors' ancestors, to know that they were still watching over her. Once inside, she headed for the thicket of shiny green leaves where she had caught her mice. Hazeltail padded along beside her. "I'm so glad we found Soul," she murmured. "Now we can go home." Hollyleaf nodded. "I feel bad about taking Soul away from Purdy," she confessed. "But Soul is a murderer!" Hazeltail halted, her eyes wide with shock. "What if he kills Purdy too?" "He wouldn't do that," Hollyleaf replied. "How do you know?" Hazeltail persisted. "We need to get him back to camp fast before he does any more damage. Firestar will know what to do with him." Hollyleaf shook her head helplessly. There was no way to reply to Hazeltail's question. Besides, if Soul didn't come back to ThunderClan with them, what would happen in the hunt for Ashfur's killer? Would Firestar be forced to look closer to home? Hollyleaf's belly felt cold at the thought of accusations flying around her clan. She plunged into the thicket to hunt, but this time prey didn't come so easily to her paws. In the end, she had to be content with a single shrew. She padded back to Purdy's den feeling embarrassed, but the rest of the patrol had only found thin pickings too.
Ray's pretty scarce round here,
Purdy admitted as they crouched down to eat.
but I can find enough to feed me and Soul to Deep Bear, and I ain't never starved before.
He must be so lonely if he's willing to share this much prey with a stranger, Hollyleaf thought sadly, swallowing her morsel of shrew. When she had eaten, she settled down to sleep. The stone floor of the den was damp and cold, and wind whistled through the gaps in the wall. Huddling next to Line Blaze for warmth, Hollyleaf wished for the thick moss of break-in of her nest in the camp, and for the sheltering branches of the warrior's den. Hollyleaf slept fitfully, and woke to see the cold light of Leaf Bear dawn angling across the floor. Brambleclaw and Brakenfur were already on their paws. Hazeltail and Birchfall were stirring drowsily, while Purdy slept in a rumbled heap in the opposite corner. Soul was curled up in a sheltered niche where a couple of stones had fallen from one of the inner walls of the den. Brambleclaw patted over and prodded him awake. "It's time to leave," he meowed. Soul lifted his head, his amber eyes blinking, then rose to his paws.
If you wish.
"He creeps me out," a voice whispered in Hollyleaf's ear. Hollyleaf startled and turned to see Birchfall. "Don't sneak up on me like that," she snapped, annoyed with herself because Soul was spooking her too. "He's just a cat." As she finished speaking, Soul padded past her towards the entrance to the den.
I told you I would come back.
He murmured quietly. He murmured quietly enough that she was the only cat to hear. Struggling to shrug off her feelings of uneasiness, Hollyleaf roused Lion Blaze, and the sound of voices woke Purdy, who stumbled sleepily over to the remains of the rabbit.
You gotta eat something before you go,
he meowed. "But you need it more than we do," Brakenfur protested.
I can catch another,
Purdy retorted, his neck fur beginning to bristle.
You need to keep your strength up if you're going on a long journey.
The Clan cats exchanged glances. Certainly Purdy would be insulted if they refused, so they crowded around the last of the prey and forced down a few grisly scrapes. Purdy watched them, while Soul just waited in the entrance, his gaze lifted to the sky.
Don't go near them monsters,
Purdy instructed.
They'll flatten you as soon as they look at you. And there's dogs gives trouble sometimes. And know not to mess with me. They know not to mess with me, but youngsters like you.
"You met the dogs, Purdy," Hazeltail told him. You're right. They are dangerous. We'll be careful." The old tabby Tom gave his cheek for a lick, as if he was pleased to have been helpful. Every mouthful of prey felt like dust to Hollyleaf. She wished there was something they could do, so that Purdy wouldn't be left alone. When all the cats had finished eating, Hollyleaf said goodbye to Purdy. The old cat was still trying to stay cheerful, but Hollyleaf could see the loneliness and fear in his eyes. Why doesn't he go live with the other cats? She touched noses with him gently. "May StarClan be with you, Purdy," she murmured. "I hope we'll meet again."
Maybe we will.
But Hollyleaf could tell Purdy didn't believe they would.
You take care now, you hear?
Brambleclaw led the way to the entrance of the den. Soul rose to his paws and fell in beside the clan deputy as the cats emerged into the garden. By this time the sun was up. The sky was clear, pale blue on Leaf Bear. A faint breeze rustled the leaves on the bushes. Halfway to the fence, Brambleclaw stopped and looked back at Purdy, who stood watching them from the nearest gap in the wall. "Come with us, Purdy," he meowed urgently. "There's room for you in the Elder's Den. Firestar will welcome you." Purdy stared at him.
Well, I don't know what to say.
As sorry as she felt for the old cat, Hollyleaf felt herself bristling inside. This can't be right. Purdy isn't a clan cat. What will the other clans say? Then she suppressed a shiver. I might not be a clan cat either. Does that mean I should live alone, without any friends to help me hunt? Soul was looking on expressionlessly. Does he care about Purdy at all? Hollyleaf wondered. "Well?" Brambleclaw prompted the old cat.
No, I'll be fine.
Purdy gave his rumpled pelt a shake.
There's no need to feel sorry for me. I survived more than one leaf bear on my own.
"We'd appreciate your help getting around this two-leg place, you'd know," Brakenfur meowed, padding back towards the den. "You know the area far better than we do." "And once we're back in camp, you'd have a lot to teach our apprentices." Brambleclaw put in. I don't suppose Hollyleaf and Lionblaze have forgotten how you saved them from the dogs. Lionblaze nodded, while Hollyleaf suppressed a shudder at the memory of the dogs who had trapped them in a barn on their way to the mountains. Without Purdy's quick thinking, she and her brother and Breezepelt would all have been torn to pieces. Chips? Yes! Chips! I have chips! Chips. Yeah! 7 ties! Soon we'll be in the double digits. Elders have a lot of influence in the way the clan is run, Brambleclaw went on. It would be an honor to have you live with us, with all your experience and all you know about upwalkers. Hollyleaf dug her claws into the earth. She knew that the 2 senior warriors were lying. Bringing another loner into the clan wouldn't be easy, and they didn't need to know about living among 2 legs, because there were so few of them by the lake. Why not leave Purdy where he is, if he's happy? Why do clan cats always think they know best? Hollyleaf, what are you even saying? A second ago you were like, I wish there was something we could do. Except for that. We're not gonna do that. That's a bit too much. That's too nice. I meant like we give him a cat to play with him, not we bring him back home. Oh, Hollyleaf. Well, okay. He's so quick to accept. Purdy scrambled through the gap in the wall and padded over to join the patrol. I'll come along as far as the edge of the 2-leg place, at least. Reckon you might need a bit o' help finding your way. Turning to Sol, he added, I never finished telling you that story about the fox. Brambleclaw led the way to the gap in the fence where the patrol had entered the night before. Here he paused, his head raised and his ears pricked, while he tasted the air. The rest of the patrol waited in silence. Hollyleaf closed her eyes, concentrating until she felt the tug at her paws that told her the direction of the lake. You know which way to go? Hazeltail fretted, obviously not trusting her own inner guide. Brambleclaw nodded. I think so. I'm trying to remember what we saw from that rooftop. I'm not going up there again, Birchfall wailed. No, there's no need, Brambleclaw assured him. But one of us can climb a tree soon to check whether we're going the right way. Let's get moving. Hollyleaf squeezed through the gap in the fence, hard on the clan deputy's paws, and found herself on a grass shoulder beside a thunder path. They had crossed here the night before, when all was dark and quiet. Now monsters were rushing up and down. The bright colors dazzled Hollyleaf's eyes. The air was filled with the growling and their acid smell. I hate this, she muttered to Lionblaze. Don't care how many times we've done it. I'm still afraid some cat will get squashed. Brambleclaw padded up to the very edge of the thunder path until his fur was ruffled by the wind of passing monsters. When I say run, run as if a whole pack of dogs were behind you. Lionblaze sighed. Well, we've had plenty of practice. Hollyleaf noticed that Breakenfur had positioned himself next to Purdy, as if he intended to keep an eye on the old cat when the time came to cross. Sol stood on Purdy's other side, his gaze fixed on the opposite side of the thunder path. A huge monster swept by, the rumbling from its belly louder than a whole clan of cats growling at once. As it faded into silence, Brambleclaw glanced sharply up and down the thunder path. Now! Run! Hollyleaf leaped forward, aware of Lionblaze on the other side of her and Birchfall on the other. The surface of the thunder path was hard under her flying paws. Then she was across, stumbling thankfully onto the grass of the other side. Turning, she saw that all the cats had crossed safely, except for Purdy, who was weaving erratically across the middle of the thunder path, and Breakenfur, who padded beside him, trying to urge him on. Take it easy, youngster, Purdy meowed. There ain't no monsters coming. But... Breakenfur began desperately. He broke off at the sound of a monster approaching. As it roared into sight around the corner, he gave Purdy a massive shove from behind. The old tabby stumbled forward with a startled yowl and flopped safely onto the grass as the monster swept past, snarling, barely a mouse length away. Breakenfur had sprung to safety beside him with a heartbeat to spare. Purdy, never scare us like that again, Brambleclaw hissed in exasperation.
The old cat picked himself up, blinking. What? There weren't no problem, and there weren't no need to go pushing me around, he added to Breakenfur in an injured tone.
Breakenfur sighed. Sorry.
Always panicking, young cats,
Purdy murmured. Hollyleaf rolled her eyes. This journey is going to be interesting, she whispered to Lionblaze. Brambleclaw gathered the patrol together with a wave of his tail and set off along the edge of the thunder path. Soon Hollyleaf picked up the sound of many two-leg kits, their voices shrill in the crisp morning air. Purdy owns. Pappy is Purdy's #1 fan. What's that? She asked, her paws tingling with suspicion.
Nothing to worry about, Purdy reassured her. You'll see.
Hollyleaf wasn't sure she could trust the old cat's judgment. Rounding the next corner, she saw a huge two-legged nest with a wide expanse of stone on the ground all around it. A fence of narrow, shiny trees cut it from the thunder path. Crowds of two-legged kits, more two-legs than she had ever seen together at one time, were running and yowling and throwing things at one another.
A school!
What is this place? She meowed curiously.
Purdy shrugged. Dunno. They come here most days.
Hollyleaf's belly clenched with shock as the old cat trotted up to the fence and stuck his nose through a gap. At once, several of the two-legged kits ran up to him, stretching out their hands.
What is he doing?
Breakenfur muttered.
Purdy!
Purdy took no notice. The two-legged kits were reaching through the fence to stroke him. His purr was loud enough to reach the rest of the patrol where they stood, a few tail lengths away. Remember, he used to be a kitty pet, Birchfall murmured. It must make him act weird sometimes. Brambleclaw said nothing, just twitched his tail to guide the patrol past the shiny fence at a safe distance. They waited for Purdy a few fox lengths down, alongside the thunder path. As they padded past, Hollyleaf noticed one of the kits pull something out of its pelt and hold it out to Purdy, who licked it up enthusiastically.
Welcome back!
Has he no sense? Eventually, a harsh clanging sounded from inside the two-legged den, and all the kits ran over towards it and stood in a line to go through the entrance. Purdy turned away and came bounding up to the patrol.
What are you staring at?
He demanded, puffing. Purdy, was that a good idea? Brambleclaw asked. Hollyleaf could tell he was trying to keep irritation out of his voice. What did that kit feed you?
No.
Purdy's eyes gleamed as he swiped his tongue around his jaws.
It was real tasty, though.
Brambleclaw sighed. Right, let's go. A little further on, the two-legged dens became more widely spaced. Then they stopped altogether as woodland took over on either side of the thunder path. Relief flooded through Hollyleaf from ears to tail tip as Brambleclaw veered away from the thunder path to pad under the trees. Before they had ventured more than a couple of tail lengths into the wood, he halted. This would be a good place to check our direction, he meowed. Who feels like climbing a tree?
I will!
Lineblaze offered instantly.
No, I will,
Hazeltail argued. I'm lighter. I can get up higher. Brambleclaw nodded. Okay, Hazeltail. Lineblaze looked disgruntled while Hazeltail leaped up the trunk of the nearest tree, digging her claws into the bark. Hollyleaf's heart thumped as she watched her friend clambering through the leafless branches, higher and higher, until she reached the top of the tree and clung there, swaying in the breeze. Hollyleaf couldn't stop thinking about how Cinderheart had fallen back in the forest and injured her leg. What do we do if Hazeltail's hurt when we have so far to go? But a few heartbeats later, Hazeltail began to scramble down. Soon she reached the lowest branch and jumped down beside her clanmates.
I could see so far!
She exclaimed. Are we on the right track? Brambleclaw asked. Yes. Hazeltail's fur was fluffed up with excitement. I couldn't see the lake, but I could tell where it was. Behind WindClan's ridge. We need to go this way. She gestured with her tail into the trees.
And we'll get there without going through any more two-leg places.
That's great news. Brambleclaw gave the younger warrior an approving nod. Well done, Hazeltail. Hazeltail's eyes shone with pride as the patrol set off again. Now that the path was wider, Hollyleaf noticed that Breakenfur and Birchfall were walking one on each side of Soul. The loner glanced at each of them, his amber eyes glinting with amusement. You don't need
To put me under guard, you know, he mewed. I'm not gonna run away.
Purdy halted, staring at Sol with a baffled look. Under guard? What's all this about? Brambleclaw was forced to halt too. His whiskers twitched with irritation as he glanced back. It doesn't matter. We have to keep moving.
ThunderClan thinks I've done something,
Sol replied to Purdy, ignoring Brambleclaw.
That's why they want me to go back with them.
What? Purdy gaped. That's fluff-brained. Turning to Brambleclaw, he added, You're wrong, you know. Sol's a decent cat. He wouldn't do nothing bad. Oh, I think that's silver. Let's see. No, it's Phil! My bad. Silver's green, I forgot.
Oh, I lost my page.
Chip time. Ow. Brambleclaw didn't try to explain. He just waved his tail, signaling for the patrol to continue, and almost immediately disturbed a pheasant, which came scrambling out of a clump of bracken with a raucous alarm call. At the same moment, a squirrel, obviously spooked by the pheasant, dashed out of cover and raced for the nearest tree. Springing forward, Hollyleaf intercepted it and brought it down with a swift blow of her paw. Nice, neat catch, Britchfell called. All the patrol gathered to share the unexpected prey, and Purdy's awkward questions were pushed to the back of every cat's mind. But Hollyleaf knew he would ask again. And which one of us is going to tell him the truth? The patrol headed on through the forest, but not long after sun-high, Hollyleaf noticed that Purdy was getting tired, stumbling and blundering into bracken or brambles. She padded beside him, trying to guide him with her tail, but it was clear that he wouldn't be able to keep going until nightfall. Sprinting ahead, Hollyleaf caught up to Brambleclaw. It's Purdy, she mewed. He's so tired. What are we going to do? Brambleclaw glanced back. Mouse dung. We can't just leave him here. Clearly, the clan deputy was regretting that he had asked Purdy to join them. Okay, we'll stop soon, he decided. Do what you can to help him, Hollyleaf. Sure. Hollyleaf waited for Purdy to stagger up to her, then patted beside him. Do you want to lean on my shoulder? She offered. Purdy glared at her. You think I can't manage on my own? Jumped up young whippersnapper. Sorry. Hollyleaf guessed he was angry because he knew he needed help, but pride wouldn't let him accept it. She fell back a couple of paw steps so she could keep an eye on him, and was relieved when Brambleclaw called a halt. So soon? Blindblaze asked, gazing up at where the sun still angled through the trees. We could go a lot further before it gets dark. I know. Brambleclaw meowed with a glance at Purdy. But we all had a tough time in the two-leg place, and we need to hunt and rest. There should be plenty of prey here. The place Brambleclaw had chosen to stop was a small clearing among huge oak trees. Dead leaves covered the ground. At one side, a tiny spring trickled between moss-covered stones into a pool. Purdy stumbled over to it, took a few laps of water, and flopped down in a rumpled heap. Heartbeats later, loud snores came from him. Sol padded across to a sunny patch of ground and sat with his tail curled around his front paws. His amber eyes glowed in the golden light. He clearly had no intention of hunting for himself. Hollyleaf headed into the undergrowth. The scents were strong, and she soon caught a mouse and a thrush. Maybe it's not a bad idea to stop early, she thought as she kicked earth over her fresh kill. It's warmer now, so the prey is out and about. When she had added another mouse to her couch, she hurried back to the clearing to find that her clanmates were already building a fresh kill pile near the pool. Birchfell dragged up a huge rabbit, his tail raised proudly. There are more over there, he gestured with his tail. We'll eat well tonight. Dropping a mouse and the thrush on the pile, Hollyleaf took the other mouse over to Purdy and prodded him awake. The old tabby gave a startled snort, looking around wildly. What is it, foxes? Let me get at him. It's okay, Purdy. Hollyleaf rested her tail on his shoulder. I brought you a mouse. Purdy blinked. That's right good of you. He began devouring the mouse in famished gulps, then stopped and moved back awkwardly. Here, you have some too. No, it's for you. Hollyleaf mewed. How long has it been since Purdy had a decent meal? There's plenty more. When all the cats had eaten, Brambleclaw made sure Soul was given a share of the catch. They settled down to sleep among the trees. By now, the sun had gone and twilight was gathering. A cold breeze clattered the bare branches. Hollyleaf noticed that Purdy was shivering. She beckoned Hazeltail over with a wave of her tail. "Purdy really can't look after himself," she murmured into her clanmate's ears. "Let's sleep beside him and keep him warm."
Okay.
Hazeltail mewed, though she looked doubtful. I hope he hasn't got fleas. I'm sure he's got fleas, Hollyleaf thought, as she and Hazeltail clawed together a heap of dry leaves to make a nest. And ticks. We'll have to give him a good going over with mouse bile before we let him go anywhere near mouse fur.
Yum, 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 yum. Sometimes they get stuck under... See how they're climbing up right here?
There's like an empty space right underneath where they're currently standing up on top of.
So sometimes when bombs happen, or the screensaver, or a battle royale, they get stuck underneath it. Wah! There they go. Maybe getting stuck, maybe not. We'll find out. Landed on your slug cat twice! 3 times!
I think it's just landing purposefully on your slug cat. I think you're stuck going up and down right now, Phil.
Oh, no one got stuck.
When Hollyleaf woke, it was still dark. She could just make out the trace of bare branches against the sky, but stars still glittered overhead. Purdy was snoring louder than ever, and Hazeltail was curled up beside him with her tail wrapped over her ears. Hollyleaf knew she wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. Very quietly, as to not disturb any cat, she rose to her paws and peered around, blinking to clear her bleary eyes. Brambleclaw, Brakenfur, and Birchfall had made their nests close together on the other side of the pool. All 3 of them were sleeping peacefully. Birchfall's tail twitched as if he was dreaming. 3 cats, not 4. Soul's gone! Hollyleaf swept her gaze around the clearing, but there was no sign of the distinctive tortoiseshell and white pelt. Tasting the air, she picked up a scent. It was still fresh, but faint. Hollyleaf's first impulse was to wake Brambleclaw, but some inner command sent her paws in another direction, following the wispy thread of Soul's scent. She padded as silently as she could through the trees, flinching as her paws crouched in the bitter leaves. She soon began to hear the sound of running water. It grew louder until she came to a spot where the trees thinned out a little, and the ground fell away to where a stream gurgled along over stones. Soul was sitting at the top of the slope, his back to her, his gaze fixed on the paling stars.
You think they hold all the answers, Hollyleaf?
He asked without turning his head. Every hair on Hollyleaf's pelt rose until she realized that she was standing upwind of the stream, and Toll must have scented her approach. I don't know, she replied. I don't know anything anymore. Now Soul turned to her, his amber eyes blinking sympathetically.
Why is that?
Hollyleaf sighed. Everything was so much easier when I could trust what other cats said. Even as she spoke, she couldn't believe she was telling this to any cat. She hadn't even shared her doubts with her litter mates.
You must learn to trust yourself, Hollyleaf.
Soul meowed in the deep, rich voice that seemed to inspire confidence.
Only you know what is right.
I get so confused sometimes. Hollyleaf's voice shook. I don't want to have to decide everything on my own.
It gets easier, little one.
Soul rose to his paws.
Come on, let's go back to the others.
Hollyleaf's belly churned as she followed Soul back into the clearing. He almost destroyed ShadowClan. Every cat thinks he killed Ashfur, so why do I feel that I can trust him with my life? When they reached the clearing, the rest of the patrol were stirring. Brambleclaw looked up from grooming his pelt, a surprised expression in his amber eyes. But all he said was, I wondered where you'd got to, as he padded over to check on Purdy. The old tabby heaved himself out of his nest. I'm fit as a squirrel, he insisted, shaking dead leaves from his back. No need for you youngsters to be fussing. After they had finished up the previous night's fresh kill, the cats set out again. Passing the place where she had met Soul, Hollyleaf realized they were coming to the edge of the woods. Soon they stood beneath the forest's outermost trees, gazing across fields dotted with gray-white puffs that Hollyleaf realized were sheep.
I don't like this, Purdy grumbled as they crossed the fields, giving the sheep a suspicious glance. What are them creatures anyway?
Sheep, Purdy, Hollyleaf replied, patting beside him. Didn't they have any on that farm where we met last time?
Purdy sniffed. Never seen 'em before.
He jumped, fur fluffing up, as one of the sheep ambled away from the others and trotted closer to the cats.
Quick, run!
It's okay, Hollyleaf mewed. The sheep halted and began to crop a new patch of grass. They're not taking any notice of us.
There's just too much space round here, Purdy complained, flattening himself to the ground. No trees, no upwalkers, 2 legs, you call 'em.
You mean you want 2 legs? Hollyleaf's exasperation spilled over like a rain from a leaf. That won't do if you're gonna live with ThunderClan. Hey, take it easy. Lineblaze veered over and rested his tail on Purdy's shoulder for a heartbeat. Purdy can't help not being a clan cat. Nor can we! Hollyleaf almost flashed the words back at her brother, but stopped herself in time. How long before one of us gives away the secret? With a massive effort, she made herself relax. I know. Sorry, Purdy. By sun-high, Hollyleaf could see that the old cat was tiring again, and soon Brambleclaw called a halt in the shelter of some trees surrounded by gorse bushes. Purdy collapsed on his side, breathing hard. Joel patted away a few paw steps and sat down, peering over the field. Hey, look at this! Hazeltail was sniffing at a clump of something that looked like thistledown stuck on one of the gorse bushes. What is it? Hollyleaf padded up to look. Birchfall followed curiously. It smells of sheep. It smells of sheep, Hollyleaf meowed. Glancing around, she spotted more of the clumps on other bushes. Their pelts must get snagged on the thorns when they brush past. It's very soft. Hazeltail tugged at the clump with her teeth and came away with a mouthful of it. I'm going to take some back for the nursery. Birchfall suppressed a roar of laughter. You look as if you swallowed a thistle. He ducked as Hazeltail swatted at him with her tail. It's a good idea, he added hastily. I'll collect some too, for my kits. Hollyleaf left them, pulling the sheep pelt off the bushes, and padded back to Purdy. The old cat was reviving, and looked calmer now that the sheep were a safe distance away. Do we have time to hunt? She asked Brambleclaw. The Glen deputy's ears twitched in surprise. Are you hungry already? No, Hollyleaf replied, lowering her voice. I just want 1 mouse, for the mouse bio. We'll never hear the last of it if we let Purdy into camp with all his fleas and ticks. Raising a hind paw to scratch her side, she added, I think I might have picked something up from him already. Okay. There was a glint of amusement in Brambleclaw's eyes, but don't be long. I want to keep going. We're not far from the lake now. I can feel it in my paws. Woo! Dusk was falling as the patrol left the fields behind and came to a small thunder path. Tasting the air, Hollyleaf breathed in the scent of horses. The horse place! She exclaimed. We're nearly home! Brambleclaw led the way, slipping under the shining fence and across the expanse of whitish stone, past the 2-legged nest and the horses' nests. As they emerged into the field, Hollyleaf looked around for the horses, but there were no sign of them. They must be shut up in their wooden nests, she murmured to Lineblaze. She couldn't see Smokey or Floss either, though she picked up their scents. Her paws pricked with urgency. She wanted to be back in the warm familiarity of the stone hollow, and yet she knew that there was no real safety there. Or anywhere else, she reflected sadly. Where will all the lies and betrayal end? Chapter 15! What the heck? There's like 15 empty pages. Guys, should I have an iced tea or a Coca-Cola later? So I'm really feeling the iced tea, but I also am feeling the Coca-Cola. Maybe I'll just have both at the same time.
Tea. Iced tea. Scrumptious.
Nice gift squad. Thank you. I worked really hard on it. It's a bit outdated, some of the stuff, but one day I'll get around to it. I think I worked like a whole week on it. Oh, Dunn wants me to vote for him. Guys, everybody vote for Dunn. Can go to tickets, dang it. Go vote for Dunn. Wait, Dunn Kachi VA. That's his username. On the best video YouTuber, go put his link. I think it's, what page is that? Page. Page. You know, they took 2 of my suggestions. I feel so... Oh, I found it! Page 17 out of 18. Put Dunkachi VA. Wait, where's his Twitter? I'll get his Twitter as well. Okay, this is his Twitter. Go to page 17. You can skip every single one and then put in Dunkachi VA and then put in, this is the Twitter. Thank you, you're the best. And then submit it. Wow. What's happening? It's this like little VTuber award thing. So, kind of like a small streamer award thing made by other streamers. And my friend Dunkachi, he is trying to get the best video VTuber award, and that's on page 17 of that form. So I was asking if you guys could go on to page 17. You don't have to enter anything else. Just go to page 7. I mean, you can if you want to. But on page 17, you can put in Dunkachi VA and then his Twitter. And then submit it, if you will. Please, pretty please, with a cherry on top. Log in to Google? Weird. Soultom's VTuber Goo. Let's go down. Yeah, Kaido, you're so smart. He has been playing a lot of Soulsborne too. Thank you so much. Let's keep going. Me too. That's the tough thing. The only category that I could guess that I could pick would be like best VTuber design. But there are so many really, really, really good, unique VTuber designs that are small indies. I suggested Say So VTuber. I voted you to that one. Thank you, Kaito. There's, I suggested Wholesome or Say So VTuber. I suggested Educational VTuber. I suggested the host VTuber, like event hoster. And they put all 3 of those in except for the Wholesome and Say So one. I feel like if they have a lewd tuber, they should have like a comfy or wholesome
or say so VTuber option. If they have the lewd tuber, they should have the opposite. It just makes sense. Alas, they did not. And if they have chaotic gremlin, it's like the opposite of that too. Like the most calm VTuber, you know, like comfiest VTuber would be the opposite of like chaotic gremlin. Hopefully next year. Yeah, I'll suggest it again next year. Because I know so many... Cozy cat! Oh, that's really cute. I think next time I'll put it so it's like... If you have the... I'll have like chaotic gremlin. And then with the cozy... The cozy one. And then the YouTuber with the say-so one. So that they know that it makes sense. You know? Because I know so many people that I would vote for those ones too, but there's no option. There's not even like a wholesome one, and there's a whole like wholesome game, you know, brand. Oh well, next time. Thanks, Jay. Oh, wait, sorry. The chapter, I think this is 15. Thanks, Jay Feather. Whitewing purred as Jay Feather dropped a leaf wrap of ragwort in front of her. The nursery is warm and quiet. Daisy and Millie had taken their kits out for some exercise, leaving the White Queen to get some rest. Make sure you eat it all, Jay Feather instructed her. Your kits will be born soon, and you need all the strength you can get. I know. Whitewing sighed. I hope it's not much longer. I feel huge. You're fine, Jay Feather assured her. He said goodbye and pushed his way out of the nursery. The morning was crisp, but he could feel the weak rays of Leaf Bear's sun melting the forest, the night frost. Now, he muttered to himself, if only Leafpool's still out looking for a yarrow. He couldn't pick up his mentor's scent when he brushed past the bramble screen into the den, but another cat was there, irritation coming off of him in waves. Mouse dung! Ooh, I got a hiccup. Mouse dung, Jay Feather thought. Now I'll have to deal with him. Berry Nose, he mewed. What can I do for you? It's my tail, the young warrior told him. It hurts, and it smells funny. Jay Feather sniffed at the stump of Berry Nose's tail, and almost recoiled at the rotting scent. You've got an infection, he reported. How? Berry Nose sounded indignant. Leafpool said that it healed after I caught it in the fox trap. It did, Jay Feather agreed. You must have opened up the wound again. Can you remember catching it on anything lately? Berry Nose hesitated. I got stuck in some brambles when I was chasing a rabbit, he admitted at last. That could do it, Jay Feather mewed. But there's nothing to worry about. You need a paulus of marigold, that's all. Wait there a moment. He padded into the cave where the herbs were stored and located the marigold. Chewing up the leaves, he returned to Berry Nose. Keep still while I plaster this on, he mumbled around the mouthfuls. Can I be excused from duties? The cream-colored warrior asked hopefully. Jay Feather was unsympathetic. No. You don't patrol or catch prey with your tail. But come back here tomorrow and I'll put on a fresh paulus. Okay. Berry Nose mewed. Thanks, Jay Feather. It does feel better. Right. Jay Feather thought when he had gone.
Your doggy was stinky?
No, for my plan. He went back into the cave and collected a few leaves of chervil, dandelion, and borage. Bounding across to the elder's den, he set the leaves down in front of Mousefur. Are any of these the herb? He demanded. Mousefur let out an annoyed hiss. What herb? Without the bunch of leaves in his mouth, Jay Feather could smell fresh kill. He guessed he had interrupted the elder's meal. The herb you told me about, the one Leafpool mixed in with your tansy? Oh, that. The skinny elder still sounded grumpy. What do you want to know for?
Just curious.
Jayfeather realized he had sounded too urgent. He didn't want Mousefur to tell Leafpool what he was doing. You never know, it might be useful. Mousefur let out a grunt and gave the herbs a suspicious sniff. Let me try too, Longtail offered. I didn't taste the stuff, but I might remember the scent. Well? Jayfeather asked when both elders had given the herbs a good sniff. No, it wasn't any of those, Mousefur meowed. I know these herbs. Leafpool uses them all the time for fever and infected wounds.
That's right.
That's what? That's right, Longtail added, sorry. Jayfeather suppressed a frustrated sigh. Not even this one? He asked, pushing forward the chervil. What part of no don't you understand? Mousefur growled, giving his ear a stinging flick with her tail. Okay. Jayfeather gathered up the herbs again. Thanks, I'll bring back some more later. Give us the chance to finish this rabbit first, Mousefur called after him as he left the den. Jayfeather returned to his own den, intent on finding more herbs for Mousefur and Longtail to try, but he had just replaced the chervil, dandelion, and borage into their proper places when he heard Leafpool enter the den behind him. A strong scent of yarrow came with her. Jayfeather, what are you doing? She asked sharply. Why do you smell as if you've been sleeping in our supplies? I fell over in the store, Jayfeather stammered. I got herb dust on my pelt. Leafpool let out a long sigh. Really, Jayfeather, it's like having a kid in here. And why were you poking around in the store anyway? Jayfeather felt his pelt rising at the anxiety and fear that was flooding from his mentor. Why doesn't she want me looking in the store? He wondered. I've as much right to be in there as she has. What is she hiding now? I wasn't poking around, he retorted, and I cleaned the stuff up. Leafpool sniffed. Put this yarrow away then, she ordered. I want to go check on Millie's breathing. She's out there romping around with her kits, and it might be too much for her. Once Leafpool had gone, Jayfeather tidied away the yarrow and slipped out a daisy leaf and a sliver of bird rock root. It's either of these, I'm a mouse. Making sure that Leafpool was over by the nursery with Millie, he hurried back to the elder's den. You again! Mousefur muttered. What is it this time? She sniffed briefly at each of the herbs Jayfeather put in front of her, and tasted the daisy leaf. No, she mewed. It wasn't them. Longtail came over for a sniff, but he didn't recognize the herbs either. Jayfeather sighed. Okay, we'll keep trying. I think you've got bees in your brain, Mousefur meowed as she settled down for a nap. Jayfeather was eating a vole near the fresh kill pile when he heard Firestar padding past him, on his way to the medicine cat's den. Gulping down the last of a couple mouthfuls, he followed, standing just outside the bramble screen so that he could hear what the clan leader had to say. Leafpool, I wanted to ask you. Firestar sounded almost embarrassed. Yes? Leafpool prompted an edge to her tone. I just wondered whether you've had a chance to speak with StarClan yet? Jayfeather could tell that the clan leader wanted to sound casual, as if the question didn't really matter, but he was failing miserably. Jayfeather's belly clenched as he wondered what Leafpool's answer would be. Then he made himself relax. The whole clan would know about it if Leafpool had spoken to Ashfur. No! Leafpool snapped. If I do, you'd be the first to know. Oh, okay, thanks. Firestar edged out of the den, paused, and then bounded off, not even noticing Jayfeather. Why doesn't Leafpool want to talk to StarClan? Jayfeather wondered. What is she so afraid of? His paws itched to get out of camp, maybe go down to the lake, find the stick, and see if Rock would talk to him again. But Rocket told him to look for answers here, among his own clan. StarClan, why aren't you helping me? Jayfeather demanded silently. Isn't that your job, to guide the clans? As if in answer to his unspoken plea, Sandstorm padded across the clearing and halted beside him. Do you want to go on a walk in the forest with me? Jayfeather twitched his ears in surprise. What for? Sandstorm let out a faint purr of amusement. Can't I just want your company? No, you're right, she added. I do need to talk to you. Somewhere we won't be interrupted. Okay, Jayfeather agreed, but I'll have to ask Leafpool first. She's a bit touchy just now. I know, Sandstorm told him. Wait there. She brushed past the bramble screen, and Jayfeather heard her meow. Leafpool, I'm borrowing Jayfeather for a bit. We're going into the forest. All right, Leafpool replied, though she sounded grudging as she gave permission. Tell him to fetch some tansy back with him. What's gonna happen? It's getting sus. It is. I want to know the mystery. Jay Feather's paws tingled as he followed Sandstorm through the gorse tunnel and along the trail that led towards the Wind Clan border. He had always respected the ginger she-cat, and even though he now knew that she wasn't his kin, he still trusted her. Sandstorm said nothing particularly helpful as she followed the stream that marked the border with Wind Clan. Jay Feather listened impatiently to her comments about how the prey was running and whether Wind Clan was likely to make a raid across the border. But he didn't object. He knew the she-cat wouldn't talk until she was ready. Eventually, they reached a spot where the trees gave way to moorland, and a cold wind kept whistling down from the ridge that stretched all the way to the moon pool. "Let's rest for a while," Sandstorm suggested, sitting at the edge of the stream. Jay Feather padded over to join her, turning until the wind was in his face, enjoying the snow-scented blast that flattened his pelt to his side. "Jay Feather," Sandstorm began, "do you think Leafpool is all right? She seems very tense lately." "So that's what this is about." "I've noticed that too," he replied cautiously. "Is it the strain of dealing with the green cough?" Sandstorm guessed, "or something worse? Do you think it's possible she's blaming herself for Ashfur's death?" Jay Feather sank his claws into the grass to steady himself. I didn't see that coming. He wanted to tell Sandstorm that the death of Ashfur had nothing to do with Leafpool. I can guarantee it. But he knew how stupid that would be to voice his certainty. It would provoke questions from Sandstorm, questions that he had no way of answering without bringing the whole of ThunderClan crashing down around his ears. "I don't think so," he murmured. "Perhaps she feels she ought to have predicted his death, or stopped it somehow," Sandstorm went on. "Or maybe she thinks she should be able to visit him in StarClan and find out the truth." Feather froze. Firestar hasn't told Sandstorm that he asked Leafpool to find Ashfur and talk to him. How many more cats have secrets from one another? "I think Leafpool's tired from dealing with the green cough," he mewed, knowing he would have to say something to explain his mentor's strange mood. "And I know she's worried about White Wing's kits being born in such a cold season. Besides, every cat is still grieving for Ashfur. Well, maybe not every cat." Jay Feather curled up his claws as the lie slipped out. "You could be right," Sandstorm sighed. "Firestar and I are both worried about her. After all, she's not just our medicine cat. She's our daughter, too. Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight would feel just the same way about you if you were in trouble. Or not." Jay Feather found it hard to nod seriously, hoping that his expression showed none of the turmoil he felt. "You tell me if you find out anything else." Sandstorm mewed. Of course not." As he followed the ginger she-cat back to the camp, Jay Feather wondered which cat would be the next to probe his secrets, and how long the terrible things he knew could stay hidden. Wasn't as suspicious as we thought. Into the nursery. What the heck? I forgot how to do my country accent. "Hey there, partner." "Into the nursery now, kits." There we go. Daisy mewed gently. "It's time you were asleep."
"Oh, Wind Clan are attacking us,"
Rose-Kit protested.
"and I'm going to be the clan leader and fight them off."
"You can be the clan leader tomorrow," Daisy promised. Jay Feather listened as the kits tumbled into the nursery, their high-pitched voices fading. A chill night breeze ruffled his fur. Stretching, he padded off towards his den. 2 sunrises had passed since his conversation with Sandstorm. Leafpool was still touchy, and Jay Feather still didn't know why. His mentor was afraid of something, and that much he was sure of, but he didn't dare ask for an explanation. He had just reached the bramble screen when he heard a yowl from Cloudtail, who was on guard duty at the end of the thorn tunnel. "Brambleclaw, Breakinfur! Hey, they're back!" Rustling came from the warrior's den as cats bounded out into the open. Several of them raced past Jay Feather to greet the returning patrol. Jay Feather followed but hung back, trying to make sense of the mingled scents as the cat slipped through the thorn tunnel and into the camp. Brambleclaw was in the lead, followed by Breakinfur. A shiver passed through Jay Feather's pelt as he recognized the scent of Soul. The loner stepped calmly out of the tunnel and paused at the entrance before padding forward into the camp. Confidence radiated from him. This was no prisoner dragged back to answer for his crimes. A flurry of excited speculations broke out among the clan cats. "That's Soul! They found him!" "He looks so calm." Brightheart mewed, sounding confused. Surely he wouldn't look like that if he had killed Ashfur.
I wouldn't put anything past that cat, Dustpelt growled. Look what he did to ShadowClan.
What's Firestar gonna do with him? That was Foxpaw's voice, quivering with excitement. I think you should rip his pelt off and leave him for the crows.
No,
Graystripe's voice rose strongly above the babble.
that isn't how Graystripe does things. He'll talk to Soul and find out the truth.
I hope not, Jayfeather thought. Another cat followed Soul into the clearing with a scent Jayfeather couldn't place, though he knew he should remember it. Hazeltail followed, and last of all came Hollyleaf and Lionblaze. Jayfeather relaxed as he realized that his littermates had made it home unhurt. The clan cats fell silent as Firestar padded past Jayfeather, their pelts almost brushing. Greetings, Soul, he meowed. His tone was cool but polite. Thank you for coming.
Anything I can do to help?
Soul replied, with equal politeness. I'll let you rest for tonight, Firestar went on. You must be tired after your journey. Berry Nose, Honeyfern. Yes, Firestar? The two young warriors bounded up. Make a nest for Soul, would you? That bush between the medicine cat's den and the warrior's den would be a good place. It's nicely sheltered, tucked under the cliff. And there's a narrow entrance, so it's easily guarded, Jayfeather added silently. Well done, Brambleclaw, and all of you, Firestar continued when Honeyfern and Berrynose had hurried off. I know how difficult this must have been. More than you expected, Brambleclaw admitted. We found Soul in a two-leg place with me! An angry voice interrupted Brambleclaw, and Jayfeather suddenly remembered who the cat was whose scent he hadn't been able to identify. Purdy! What is he doing here?
And I'd like to know why you've dragged so old this way, the old cat went on. I hope you're not accusing him of something he hasn't done.
An astonished murmur broke out among the listening cats. Jayfeather wasn't sure whether Purdy's mere presence or his fierce defense of Soul had provoked it. Brambleclaw, who's this? Firestar asked, surprise in his voice. His name's Purdy, Brambleclaw replied. He's the loner we met on our first journey to the Sundrawn place. Purdy, this is our clan leader, Firestar. Welcome, Purdy. Jayfeather pictured the flame-colored Tom dipping his head to welcome the old tabby into camp. You can stay in the Elder's Den. Foxpaw, will you go with him to introduce him to Mousefur and Longtail?
Thanks, Firestar, the loner mewed. So, just you give me a call if you need me, okay?
He patted after Foxpaw as the apprentice led the way towards the Elder's Den. As the old loner retreated, Leafpool patted up and gave Soul's pelt a thorough sniff. Were you hurt at all on your journey? She asked. Any stiffness in your legs?
No.
Soul's voice was tinged with amusement.
I'm used to traveling long distances.
Yes, because no cat want you around for very long. The sarcastic words rose to Jayfeather's lips, but he had more sense than to let them out. Come on, Soul. I'll take you to your nest, Brigandfur announced. As the two of them padded off, Firestar called quickly to Spiderleg. You can take the first watch over Soul, he murmured. Bring him some fresh kill. Then make sure he stays in the den until morning. No problem, Firestar. Spiderleg bounded over to the fresh kill pile. Firestar headed back to his own den, leaving the rest of the clan clustered together near the camp entrance. I'm sure he's the killer, Poppyfrost exclaimed. Did you see those eyes? He looks as if he could see right through you. I'm too scared to go to sleep, Icepaw mewed. What if he murders us in our nests? Right? Mouse Whisker added. I don't know what Firestar let him in. Firestar needs to find out the truth, Brightheart meowed. And I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, Sorreltail added briskly. Spiderleg will make sure that Soul doesn't get out of his den. In spite of the she-cat's reassurance, Jayfeather's paws tingled and the fur rose on his pelt as if a thunderstorm were about to break over the clearing. The air was tense with fear and uncertainty, as if every cat knew that something huge was hanging overhead. Trying to ignore his jitters, Jayfeather padded over to where Hollyleaf and Lionblaze had flopped down together beside the thorn barrier. Hi, he meowed. How was the journey? Long. Lionblaze's voice was bleak. I thought we'd never get back. We met some other cats, Hollyleaf added. They were having trouble with dogs, and Soul had encouraged them to fight. Several of them were killed, and since then the cats have to battle the dogs every time they set paw outside their den. She let out a weary sigh. More damage than Soul's done. More damage than Soul's done. He's a troublemaker, Lionblaze agreed with a yawn. The question Jayfeather wanted to ask, do you think he killed Do you think he killed Ashfur? Stayed unspoken. All he could pick up from his littermates were sensations of weirdness, fear, and misery. He didn't allow himself to probe deeper into their minds. It's good to have you home, he told them. Neither Lionblaze nor Hollyleaf responded. Jayfeather realized that although he had missed his brother and sister with pangs sharp as claws, now that they were back, the murdered body of Ashfur still came between them. Come and eat, he suggested, pushing the thought away. Then you both need a good sleep. I wonder if we'll ever get a chance to talk to Soul, he thought as he followed his littermates over to the fresh kill pile. After all, he's the only other cat who knows about the prophecy. A new thought occurred to him. Soul talked as if we were definitely the three referred to in the prophecy. But we can't be, because Squirrelflight's not our mother. Was this something that Soul didn't know? Or had he been lying to them as well? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun! I heard a dog bark in the background. Oh yeah, I think I can hear one too. Okay. Should we do one more chapter? I think we should do one more chapter. Since we do have to catch up a little. I'm behind and... yeah, I'm behind. I'll put that away. Nom, nom, nom. Potato chip ASMR. Chapter, what was this, 16? Why is there so much space between each other? 16, yeah, I got it right. Nice, 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 nice. All right. Lionblaze woke to the sound of excited mewing and movement around him. He lifted his head to see his clanmates push their way out of the warrior's den and into the clearing. He staggered to his paws, wincing at the stabs of pain from his aching muscles, and shouldered his way through the branches after them. The sky was clear, but the sun hadn't risen far enough to penetrate the hollow. Deep shadows hung over the dens and blanketed Spider-Leg in near darkness where he crouched, on watch outside Soul's nest. But even though it was so early, it looked as if most of ThunderClan was gathered in the clearing. Daisy, Millie, and Whitewing were sitting outside the nursery. Lionblaze saw that they had their tails curled protectively around the kits, who gazed out across the stone hollow with wide, scared eyes. Foxpaw and Icepaw bounded across to join the warriors, feeling the need to be close to older, more experienced cats. Hollyleaf was already up, standing with Hazeltail and Brakenfur. She didn't glance at Lionblaze, and somehow his paws wouldn't carry him over to her. It's as if part of what we used to be, died with Ashfur. Dang. Ayo, they made it sound like something else. Hollyleaf was already up. Wait. I read that already. Firestar emerged from his den on the high ledge and ran lightly down the tumbled rocks to join Greystripe at the bottom. At the appearance of the clan leader, the excitement in the clearing mounted. Here's Firestar! Now something's bound to happen. Lionblaze flexed his muscles, trying to work the stiffness out of them. He heard a flurry of paw steps, and the Dawn Patrol raced back into camp with Thornclaw on their head. What's going on? The Golden Tom warrior panted as he skidded to a standstill in the middle of the clearing. Have we missed anything? Brambleclaw padded over to him. What are you doing here so early? He demanded. You can't have been all along the ShadowClan border. Oh, everything's quiet, Berrynose mewed, peering over Thornclaw's shoulder. There's nothing to worry about.
Good night, Pickle. Thank you for hanging out with me. And all of us. Sweet dreams. Where were we?
Brambleclaw's tail tip twitched. All right, he growled, but take longer over it next time. He turned back to the cluster of warriors outside their den. Hunting patrols, he announced. Sandstorm, will you lead one, please? And Brightheart, He broke off, his tail flicking with irritation when he realized that no cat was listening to him. He glanced frustratedly at Firestar, who padded up to him with Graystripe at his side. They won't settle, Brambleclaw meowed. No cat even wants to eat. Graystripe nodded and leaned over to murmur into Firestar's ear. Lineblaze caught the soft words. You may as well get this done now. Firestar's ears pricked. You're right. Brambleclaw, go and fetch Soul. Every cat's gaze was fixed on the deputy as he padded across the bush where Soul had slept. He exchanged a quick word with Spiderleg, then vanished under the branches. A few heartbeats later, he emerged again with Soul behind him. As the loner padded over to Firestar, the first rays of sun slid over the rim of the hollow and shone on his fur. He looked as sleek as if he had spent the last moon grooming his pelt, instead of trekking through the two-leg place and across open country to reach the camp. Lineblaze felt tired and scruffy in comparison. As Brambleclaw escorted Soul to the center of the clearing, the ThunderClan cats drew back on either side, their eyes wide and their fur fluffed up. What's wrong with them? Lineblaze wondered with a flash of irritation. Soul's just a cat. Why are they acting like a lot of cowardly rabbits? Soul, wait for me! Purdy's yowl echoed around the hollow as he erupted from the Elder's Den, with Mousefur and Longtail following. They halted just beyond the outer branches of the hazel bush, while Purdy lumbered further into the clearing. His fur was sticking up on end, covered with scraps of moss, and his eyes blazed with anger. Brakenfur intercepted him before he could reach Soul. Take it easy, Purdy, he mewed quietly. No cat is harming Soul. Just keep back with the others. Purdy gaped in shock, but before he could reply, Hazeltail padded up to him and nudged him over to sit beside her in Birchfall. Firestar stood face to face with Soul in the middle of the circle of cats. Do you know why we've brought you here? He asked. Soul tilted his head to one side. A cat has been murdered, and you think I'm responsible. He confidently met Firestar's gaze. His fur gleamed in the pale, cold sunlight. You killed Ashfur! Thornclaw snarled at him. Yes, Cloudtail growled. You were seen on the WindClan border. Don't try to deny it. Why did you kill him? Sorreltail demanded. What had he ever done to you? Soul ignored the hostile yowling and kept his gaze fixed on Firestar as the clan leader waved his tail for silence. One of our warriors was found in the WindClan border stream, with bite marks in his throat. Firestar meowed when the clamor had died down. Do you deny it was you? Soul stared at him without blinking. Think about what you are saying, Firestar. The truth will be known when it's time. Lineblaze caught a flash of frustration in Firestar's green eyes. Soul had neither confirmed nor denied the accusation. Make him confess! Some cat hissed from the back of the crowd. Firestar ignored the fierce words, his gaze still fixed on Soul. What were you doing on the WindClan border? He asked. Soul shrugged. How should I remember? It was many sunrises ago. Did you see Ashfur there? Lineblaze could tell how hard Firestar found it to keep his voice even and calm as he questioned the loner. Ashfur. A powerful tom with thick gray fur. There was an edge of irritation in Firestar's tone. Lineblaze guessed that Soul knew very well who Ashfur was. Soul shook his head. I didn't see any cat there. Did you scent any? Lineblaze caught a gleam of amusement in Soul's eyes, as if the mysterious loner had picked up Firestar's increasing desperation. I scented ThunderClan and WindClan, he replied, but I didn't recognize any particular scents. Did you hear any sounds of fighting? Soul blinked slowly. No. Firestar paused, the tip of his tail twitching in frustration. A cold claw seemed to touch Lineblaze's belly as he realized that even his clan leader couldn't penetrate Soul's secrets. Go and get something to eat, Firestar mewed eventually. But don't think that this is over, he warned Soul. We will speak of this again. Cloudtail, will you take over guard duty, please? It'll be a pleasure, the white warrior growled. He patted after Soul and Brambleclaw as the deputy escorted Soul to the fresh kill pile, and then back to the nest, and settled himself under the outermost branches of the bush, his face grim and his pelt bristling. When Soul had gone, Brambleclaw was able to organize the hunting patrols, and cats began to leave. All the cats who went to find Soul can have the morning to recover, the deputy meowed to Lineblaze. Make sure you all get a good rest. Lineblaze wasn't sure that would be possible. His clanmates crowded around him, and the other cats who had made the journey demanded to know what had happened. Was it hard trying to bring Soul back? Poppy Frost asked.
Yeah, did he try to escape?
Foxpot added excitedly. No. Lion Blaze replied, he was willing to come. He did exactly what we wanted. And that's strange, he added to himself. Does he have a reason of his own for agreeing to come here? Every hair on his pelt prickled. Does he think he can do to us what he did to Shadow Clan? Were you scared? Mouse Whisker whispered, his eyes wide and as if he was imagining all kinds of disasters. That cat might do anything?
You watch what you're saying, young'uns.
Purdy's voice rang out loudly as the elder came bustling up to the group of cats.
You don't know what you're talking about. Soul's a good cat. He's my friend.
Mouse Whisker jumped back, alarmed by the old tabby's fierce protest. But he was seen, Cinderheart began.
Soul would never hurt another cat.
Purdy insisted, looming over the younger cats.
Have you all got fluff in your heads?
Look, Purdy, Lion Blaze began, trying to think of how he could convince the old cat. Sandstorm interrupted him. It's okay, Purdy. No cat will harm Soul if he's innocent. Come on, let me show you the fresh kill pile. Mumbling something under his breath, Purdy glared at the younger warriors before allowing the ginger she-cat to lead him away.
Phew!
Lion Blaze glanced at Hollyleaf. I thought he was going to knock me out with his dog breath. Hollyleaf was more sympathetic. Well, he's the only one defending Soul just now. Every other cat has already decided that he's guilty. Lion Blaze opened his mouth to ask, what do you think? But Hollyleaf was already padding away, and the question remained unspoken. Thinking it over, Lion Blaze wasn't sure that he wanted to know the answer. He was heading back to the warrior's den to rest when he heard a call from Firestar, and he spotted the clan leader at the foot of the tumbled rocks, beckoning with his tail to gather his remaining warriors around him. As he padded up to the high ledge, Lion Blaze thought that Firestar looked edgy. He was flexing his claws as if he wanted action, but wasn't sure what it should be. Leaf pool. The clan leader began, spotting the medicine cat at the edge of the group. Do you know of any way we can be sure whether Soul killed Ashfur? The medicine cat shook her head. What about the bite marks? Sorreltail suggested. We could get Soul to bite on a leaf and then measure his teeth against Ashfur's wound?
What? Murder mystery?
Brilliant, Firestar meowed, giving the tortoiseshell she-cat a warm look of approval. It won't work, Leafpool interrupted. Ashfur has been buried for too long. True. Then we've got to punish him, Birchfell lashed his tail. We can't let him cause any more trouble.
Let's make him collect mouse bile.
Poppy Frost's eyes gleamed. Clearly she was remembering the task she had to do when she was an apprentice. We could make him hunt for prey for the clan, Breakenfur suggested. But then he might escape, Lion Blaze pointed out. We can't punish him until we're sure he's guilty, Firestar meowed. All we can do is wait. Leafpool, will you watch for any signs from StarClan? Surely our warrior ancestors know the truth. He raked his claws across the ground, leaving deep marks in the wet earth. Why haven't they shown us something already? I want to know why Firestar isn't asking Jayfeather. Leafpool's expression was guarded. StarClan will tell us what it wants us to know in its own good time. Firestar dipped his head, accepting what his medicine cat told him. Then Soul will stay here under guard until we have more evidence, he decided. With another glance at Leafpool, he added, until StarClan decide to help us.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
In the days that followed, ThunderClan settled into an uneasy routine of feeding Soul, watching him stretch his legs while he was allowed out into the clearing, and escorting him to make dirt. Soul never lost his air of calm, and he treated every cat with the same friendliness. Lion Blaze waited frustratedly for the chance to talk to him alone. He was desperate to discuss the prophecy. He couldn't forget the sense of power and control he had felt when facing the dogs, which convinced him he was still one of the three. But Soul was never left alone, and only the senior warriors were assigned to guard him. The weather stayed sunny and dry, even though each morning the trees were rimmed with frost. Sometimes it was even warm enough by sun-high to bask in a couple of flattish rocks at the base of the cliff. Mousefur especially liked to stretch out there, soaking in the sunlight.
The elders should be allowed to bask here whenever we want, she had announced. Our old bones need it.
She sighed, twitching her ears.
Back in the old forest we had sunning rocks. All the clan cats could bask there together if they wanted.
Since Purdy's arrival, she had taken to lying on the rocks with him. Aw. Lion Blaze was surprised at their friendship, but he figured that they talked about things like how rude young cats were these days and how much tastier prey used to be. Around sun-high, several days after the patrol's return, Line Blaze was strolling back to the camp with Honeyfern and Berrynose. They had spent the morning training with Squirrelflight and Breakinfur and the other 2 apprentices. Breakinfur had taken over as Icepaw's mentor since Whitewing was so close to having her kits. "They're doing so well," Honeyfur purred. "Did you see how high Icepaw can leap?" "And Foxpaw can dodge real quickly," Line Blaze agreed. Squirrelflight made them practice that mood over and over again, and they've both got it now. Berrynose paused to stretch his jaw wide in a yawn. "I feel like lying in the sun for a bit to catch my breath. I wonder if Mousefur will let us have a turn on the basking rocks." "Good idea," mewed Line Blaze. Pushing his way through the thorn tunnel, he saw that Mousefur, Purdy, and Longtail were snoozing on the flat-topped rocks. Berrynose bounded over to them eagerly. Line Blaze followed with Honeyfern. But Purdy wasn't dozing after all.
"So, my upwalker," he was meowing as they approached. "He says to me, Purdy, he says, there's only you can get rid of this mouse, and—"
He broke off, blinking as he spotted the younger cats. Line Blaze noticed that Mousefur and Longtail, to whom Purdy was telling his story, were both fast asleep. "Hi, Purdy," he greeted the old tabby. "We were wondering if we could bask here with you for a bit. We've been training all morning, and we're tired."
"Young cats today, no stamina,"
Purdy grumbled, but he rose to his paws, stretched, and then prodded Mousefur and Longtail awake.
"What?"
Mousefur woke with a start.
"These young'uns want to bask," Purdy explained.
The tip of Mousefur's tail twitched, but to Line Blaze's surprise, she didn't object. "I suppose so," she muttered. "We'll even leave the rocks to you, providing one of you brings a bit of fresh gill to our den. I could eat a good plump full." "I'll do that," Honeyfern offered, bounding off to the fresh kill pile. Mousefur laid her tail on Longtail's shoulders to guide him down from the rocks, and the 3 elders headed off to their den under the hazel bush. "Thanks!"
Line Blaze called after them. "You fell asleep and missed some of the story," Purdy mewed to Mousefur as they retreated. "I'd better start all over again. There was this mouse, see?"
Line Blaze and Berrynose climbed up on top of the basking rocks, and Honeyfern joined them a few heartbeats later. The flat surface was warm where the elders had been lying, and bright yellow sunlight spilled down on it. Line Blaze stretched out and let heat soak into his fur. "I wish I could lie like this forever," he thought, "and never have to worry about anything again." On the rock next to him, Berrynose and Honeyfern were sharing tongues and watching Millie's kits playing in the clearing close by. Berrynose bent his head close to the tabby she-cat's ear. "We'll have kits like that one day," he purred. "Cool." Honeyfern looked up at him, blinking shyly. "I'd like that." Oh my god. Line Blaze was surprised at how gentle Berrynose sounded. He was used to the older warrior being a bossy nuisance, ordering around other cats if he thought he could get away with it. Maybe having Honeyfern as a mate would be good for him. At least he might stay out of my fur. The cream-colored warrior rasped his tongue over Honeyfur's shoulder. "You'll make a wonderful mother." Watching them together, a pang of loneliness gripped Line Blaze's belly. Who is my mother? Why didn't she want me? Closing his eyes, he wondered what she had been like, and whether she ever thought about the kits she had abandoned. "Watch me! Blossom Kit's voice came from a little ways away across the clearing. "I can leap higher than any cat." "No, you can't. I can," Bumblecit argued. Line Blaze opened one eye to see all 3 of Millie's kits leaping and tumbling around, a couple of fox lengths from the rocks where he and his clanmates lay. Briarkit fell over and rolled so that she was next to a crack in the wall. Leaping up, she balanced on her hind legs with her forepaws, stretching up into the air. "I bet you can't do this," she boasted. In the same instant, Line Blaze spotted a long, dark shadow emerging from the rock behind the kit. It reared up against the gray stone, but Briarkit was too excited to notice. Line Blaze sat bolt upright. "Snake!" He bunched his muscles to spring, but Honeyfern was quicker. Leaping down from the rock, she bundled Briarkit out of the way. The snake arched its neck before Honeyfern could move. It struck down and buried its hooks fanged into her shoulder. Honeyfern sprang backwards with a screech of pain. "Help!" "What the?" Ma'am just got attacked.
Alright, I think that's a good cliffhanger to end on.
All is peaceful.
No, it's not. Okay, chapter 17.
Dun dun dun.
It was until it wasn't.
Oh, I see.
No, I don't see. Never mind. But yes, I do.
There's like 15 million pages at the end of this document that are just blank. Like, they're just blank pages. Crazy. Alright. Next week. Hopefully I can finish by next week. I'm gonna be away from July 8th to July 18th? Something like that. Just for a week. Visiting family. Yeah! Because you'll be playing. No, I'll be away from a computer. I won't be able to play. If I was playing, I would be streaming it. Because I really want to make like a no-no. I love the big cat ladies. I don't think I would make myself a big cat lady. But I love looking at them. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll really like the look of the big cat lady as me. We'll see. But also I'd need to buy Dawn Trail, right? I don't think I have... It's true, I do have to play Dark Souls. Which is so dumb because the stream sale started and I've been checking every single day to make sure that Dark Souls isn't going on sale. And when I go to the Dark Souls page, it shows that, oh, 90% off of almost all of this brand's products. You can get a code? What's a code? What's G2A? I don't know what that is.
G2A.
G2A.
Open the gate to adventure.
Sketchy site for games? What? It's legit but sketchy.
Suspicious. Oh my god, it's so much cheaper. Dark Souls.
Wow.
I do hear it is sketchy, hence this cheapo. Why is it sketchy? Why is it weird?
We only have the remastered one. Which I think is fine, right? Ew, look at that monster. It looks so cool. Whoa. I want to be a magician whenever I play Dark Souls. Can I be a magician? Like a magic user? Is that a thing I can be? Dark Souls... classes? Is that... what? Called sorcerers! Thief, bandit, warrior, hunter, sorcerer, pyromancer, cleric, and deprived, the naked one. Is shunned as far as I know. Yeah, but they're just losers, that's why. Dark Souls 1. The very first one. They just don't know how to have fun. I heard that Iron Mouse was playing Dark Souls 3, I think? From stop being gatekeepy? Iron Mouse made a tweet saying that she was doing a magic build or something, and that everybody was really mad at her, and she was like, I'm having so much fun though. They're crazy. Yeah, let me find it actually. Iron Mouse. Playing mage is super fun. Yeah, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to have fun?
Magic in Elden Ring isn't even that crazy. I truly don't get this community. They think they're like,
If you're not having the worst time ever, then you're not really getting the Dark Souls experience.
Oh, here it is. Playing Elden Ring using a magic build has been the most fun experience ever. I'm not good at Souls games and I was having the time of my life. People kept coming into my chat telling me I was cheating, playing wrong, but I don't care. Cheating or playing wrong? But Mousy, it's cheating if you're not playing the game only at level 1. No summons, no ashes, no magic, no bleed, using the most miserable build.
bro, so many people kept coming into my chat saying this and I kept telling them to eat my butt. I know. Guys, is it cheating if the option is in the game? What's a dex build? Some people think the game is too easy if you play mage. Ah. Sweaty players that get tilted when they fight in PvP. Oh, they think it's like, it's not fair.
Well, why don't you guys play mages then, huh? Fight the mage with a mage. Then you'll be on even ground, so you say.
Don't bring my 5 giant dad save files into this. Ooh, cute. Some people make the cutest designs. What's this?
Thank you, Kono, for checking in.
Okay, this looks a lot more. Maybe I'll do. What's that other site? Where can I buy this game for cheap?
Is there any deal?
Oh my god, my friend Peppa Pig. Nice. Dark Souls. Remastered.
Oh my god, it's at $18.
Oh no, it's not. That's the store low. Okay, it's at $36 lowest right now. Bad.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the sketchy site, then yeah, it would be the cheapest. But why is it sketchy?
Why is G2A sketchy?
May seem sketchy, but using the site is perfectly legal. However, your sellers obtain
How your sellers obtain the codes? I see. So they might be stealing their codes. Is a little sussy. Mass sales. Are they like... Oh, so maybe they just buy them in large numbers and then put them on their site? You do not always get a working code? What the? You also risk of using a stolen code that compromises your account on stricter platforms. Dang.
Dreamback Market?
No. Key resellers rip off both the customers and the developer. It's true. It's sad.
Oh, well, I'll still keep an eye open. I'll figure it out. Don't worry. We'll definitely play Dark Souls before anything else happens. Don't worry. I just like talking about potential games. It's like when you think about winning the lottery, you know? Like, you know you're not gonna win the lottery anytime soon. Maybe you will win the lottery, but you're not gonna win it anytime soon, but you still imagine what you would do with the money. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to imagine what I would do in Final Fantasy, even if I'm not gonna play it anytime soon. It's just nice to do that. It can only work in certain regions. Oh. Crazy. That's so a little scary. I'd travel if I won the lottery. I don't think I would travel immediately, at least, because I have cats. I guess I could give them to my mom. I would like to go to Disney World again. Oh, no, not Disney World. Disney Sea. I want to go to Disney Sea really badly. I think I would like to live in Japan for a while if I won a lot of money. I'd cheer 1,000,000 bits. Wow, thank you. That would be like, what would that be? 100K? Never heard of Disney Sea. Disney Sea is like this really cool Disney World in Tokyo. There's like the Disney World Tokyo or Disneyland Tokyo. I don't know what it is. And then there's Disney Sea, which is basically not like they aren't run by the same people that make Disney, but so they get their own liberties to making things, and it looks so beautiful. Like, they're amazing. Yeah, so the theme of Disney Sea is that you're an adventurer and you're going on islands. So each different region of Disney Sea is a different adventurer island. And each time when you go through the opening of one of the islands, you're like going into the dock, you know? Like, you've docked and you're gonna explore that island because you're part of an adventurers guild. It's really cool. It has such a cool concept. Must be a huge area. Yeah. I think it actually is, like, there are lots of waters, like, around it, too. They have a lot of, like, water shows and stuff. Yes, that's the way it is. That's what I think I would want to do. But I would put a lot of money away. And I would want to buy a house. I think that's one of the things I would definitely want to do immediately. Buy a house. Like, go hunting, get a good, nice house, pay it off, live in it. That's what I would do first of all. After, you know, like, getting a lawyer. Apparently you're supposed to get, like, a lottery lawyer if you win a lot of money. The tiniest profitable cafe. Whoa, Phil's thinking, like, business. You want to start with an apartment? Maybe, like, a really nice condo? Steady tiny income as a safety net? That's really smart, actually. I always, like, relied on, like, interest. Like, putting it away and relying on interest. But it would make sense. It'd be more like I would need to... Wouldn't you, like, have to buy it, but then, like, hire someone to deal with it as well? So you're, like... You're still paying them, but you're getting an income from it. Paying them to do everything, but... you don't have to do anything? Because I wouldn't want to have the extra work until I know that I really want to do the extra work. I guess there would be, like, a difference between the owner and the person who runs it. Yeah, something where operational cost is low enough to be able to leave it under someone else for a bit. I think I would soundproof my room. I mean, after I buy a house, maybe it'll be a lot easier. I think I would do a lot of stuff in my house first. I'd want my living space to be as comfortable and as cute as I want it to be. Everything nicely organized, everything really cute. Have a nice streamer room that's all, like, soundproofed. Yeah, definitely. That would be really nice. I'd give stuff to my mama and my grandmama.
my sister. If I won like a really big amount, I would definitely put away money for my sister. Pay for my friends' doctor bills that live in the United States. Or pay for Dunn to get a nicer place. You'd finally upgrade your office chair. Yes! Get a nice office chair. Always in the US, or you'd pick another region if possible. Just for US in particular, because they have such terrible hospital bills. Like, people just can't go to the hospital, or like they'd rather. I'd buy no 100 games that aren't Dark Souls. Wow, thank you. I think I would also get like tattoos. I think I would go splurge on like my dream tattoo artist and get like a beautiful, stunning piece of work. Yeah. Hospital trips can be life-ruining financial. Yeah, it really sucks. Like, people, if they're like in pain or like actively bleeding and stuff, they'll be like, oh, I'll call the ambulance for you. And they're like, no, don't call the ambulance. Just drive me there. Or I can drive myself. I'll drive myself. You know, like they literally can't afford to get the help, or they like refuse to get specific things done because they can't afford to. It's like my roommate, for example, who used to live in the US. That was the biggest fear. Like, to get sick one day or get hurt and then just basically be in debt for the rest of their life. You was knocked out and woke up in the hospital with an ambulance bill? That is awful. I was uninsured when I broke my ankle and they insured me and covered everything. What? Really? That's so nice. In the States? Crazy. Same with like elders too, or like the way that they have things, like they don't allow you to proactively prepare for things. Like, they'll only wait for you to get sick before you can get the treatment, or like the start working on it. Like, if you're like a friend's like grandpa, he was in like a car accident and they wanted to do extra testing, and I think this was actually their insurance, so they wanted to get extra testing, but the insurance said they weren't going to cover it because it wasn't urgent. It wasn't an urgent thing. And they're like, well, if it happens, then it's going to be urgent. Like, you know, like we need these tests to see if it's something that's urgent. And they're like, we won't cover you unless, you know, it's like it's life or death. You know what I mean? Like, it's life or death. And they're like, huh? But if it's life or death, at that point, we don't need it because we know it's life or death. You know? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I think I would definitely try and help my friends who are in positions like that. Galileo. All right. The world is a mean and greedy place, but hey, we got fun, cozy games and times with friends. It's true. The world is really awful, but it's okay to escape for a little while. Listen to Warrior Cats. Like a wonderful friend. Aw, thanks. I used to like literally dream about doing that. Before the government decided to waive off a lot of student loans, that was what I was dreaming about. I was like, oh, I'll pay off all my friends' student loans. Like, that was my big dream. If I won the lottery. But now most of them have been waived off, so that's good. And I don't have to worry about that. Instead, I will have to worry about hospital bills for them. I don't have to, but that's what I will.
Alright. Alright, guys. I will be... What will I be doing?
I'm gonna go, have some food. Maybe a chocolate? Or, oh, the iced tea and the Coca-Cola.
And maybe I'll work some more on Dunkachi's rig.
I have like this, so I trashed the mouth that we did on the that I did while I was streaming. I got rid of that because it wasn't up to my standard. And now I'm trying what the actual course suggested, but I think I'm gonna wind up trashing that anyways and just giving him V-Bridger because it'll be good practice. But we'll see. There is also another V-Bridger way that I'm curious that I can do. So I'll be able to do that once I rig the coarse mouth, and then I can add on the V-Bridger mouth on top of it so that hopefully it'll work without V-Bridger and with V-Bridger. Because that's the problem I have with my current model, that it only works with V-Bridger. It doesn't work well without V-Bridger. It doesn't have that sort of rigging. But if I rig it so it works normally, and then I add on the V-Bridger, then hopefully he could use it in both cases. I'm really hopeful for that. So I think that's what I'll try doing next. And also I offered to... Oh wait, no, this might be a surprise. Serin's cooking something and I'm offered to rig that for her because I really want to rig it for her. It looks so cool. So I've offered to rig that for her. Secrets! Yeah, hopefully you'll see it. Oh, this is such a cute little shoe. What the heck? Nike Air Jordans, white, pink foam, glacier blue. Oh, it's so cute. It has little paws on it and fuzzy shoelaces.
Alright. Let's say that's what's gonna be. Yeah.
It's nice to tell you guys, even though you don't really know what I'm saying. It's nice to tell you guys so it's like it comes out of my head, you know? I have it written down, but not really written down. It's just like it's been verbalized. All right, let's try that cool thing we did yesterday. I like that thing. The raid. How do I access it though? Is there a way to access it? Say so. Cause last time it was just like a little... It was just like a little pop-up. But how do I find it normally? Browse? Aha! Click here or type raid browser in chat. Oh, raid browser, okay. How will that work though if I'm on OBS? Weird. Alright. Search. We want Cecil. Cecil. Please give me the dang Cecil. Oh my god, there's even like they have raided you. That's so nice. So you can like raid back people that you forgot raided you. Via's streaming. And Via's doing oh, but it's been 4 hours. I wonder if she's almost done. Maybe she's not though. Doom Underwater Edition. She's playing Subnautica. I'm pretty sure she's doing that the streamer Sunny chat, the charity thing. So that'd be good. Let's do this. Oh, cherries! Charity stream, yeah! Yeah. Alright, and then raid. There we go. Lovely Fia. Cherry tea stream. Oh my god, it's like it knew. See you when I see you. Yeah, not tomorrow, but hopefully Monday. Have a lovely rest of your day. You too, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. We got some good progress in the Warrior Cats. I wish we had more J-Feather this time because I really wanted to know the mystery he was solving. I really want to know what that herb is. I don't know what the herb is. I can't remember. I really want to know it. Oh, well. Next time. Next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.